Chapter 984. When Su Qing heard the sarcasm in Zui Yu's words, he realized Zui Yu was trying to sow discord. Therefore, he quickly returned to his normal state, neither happy nor angry. Whoosh! Unlike Su Qing, Lei Zhong's expression changed drastically. How could he, who had a bad temper, hold himself back when he heard Zui Yu's sarcasm? With a flash of his body, he seemed to have transformed into a ferocious goshawk in an instant as he flew out and pounced towards Duanling Tian in a menacing manner at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! When Lei Zhong flew out, a milky white flame rose from his body. As soon as the milky white flame appeared, it transformed into a fiery red flame that covered the sky. It made him seem like he had transformed into a vast and swollen flame that swept towards Duanling Tian. He wanted to devour Duanling Tian. Whoosh! Lei Zhong, who was covered in flames, looked like the god of fire that had descended to the world. When he punched out, it was like a big burning fireball that caused the air to compress and set off a series of air explosions. When the air explosions sounded, a scorching airwave spread out. The heaven and earth energy above Lei Zhong's head stirred and gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. First, 600 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. Subsequently, another 500 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. Fourth level void transformation stage. Fourth level advanced fire concept. The gap between the fourth level of the void transformation stage and the third level of the void transformation stage was like a chasm that was difficult to cross. A third level void transformation stage martial artist's full origin energy was equivalent to the strength of 400 ancient horned dragons. On the other hand, a fourth level void transformation stage martial artist's full origin energy was equivalent to the strength of 600 ancient horned dragons. Compared to the former, it was an extra 200 ancient horned dragons' strength. Whoosh! 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 The airwave that swept out from the compression of the air set off a series of scorching gales. It caused the people present to feel waves of heat hitting their faces. This feeling made them very uncomfortable. Currently, Lei Zhong was attacking Duanling Tian at lightning speed. He did not even use his spirit weapon. Perhaps, as far as he was concerned, a mere young disciple from a third-rate force was not qualified enough for him to use his spirit weapon. As for Duanling Tian obtaining the profundity fragment, in his opinion, it was purely due to Duanling Tian's good luck. Whoosh! With 1,100 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above his head, Lei Zhong punched out his fist. It was like a cannonball that was shot out of a barrel and filled the sky with flames. It flew straight towards Duanling Tian, as if he wanted to smash Duanling Tian into pieces with one punch. Elder brother Duan, be careful. In a hurry, Feng Tianwu reacted. Her expression changed greatly as she cried out in alarm. At the same time as she reminded Duanling Tian, her eyes turned red, and her body emitted a terrifying burning aura that continued to rise. When flames rose from Feng Tianwu's body, the heaven and earth energy above her head stirred, and it seemed like it was about to condense into 1,000, or even 2,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. Don't worry, I can handle him. When the flames on Feng Tianwu's body rose up and she was slightly unable to control them, a voice transmission entered into her ears, and it caused her to be completely at ease. She trusted the owner of the voice unconditionally. Subsequently, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duanling Tian, who seemed to be absent-minded and unguarded, turned around in an instant. He raised his hand and threw a punch out to meet Lei Zhong's punch that was filled with flames that covered the sky and was coming at him with a fierce momentum. Whoosh! Duanling Tian smashed out with his fist, and his milky white origin energy skyrocketed to instantly transform into a vast earthen yellow energy that was coiled with deep violet-colored lightning bolts and material azure-colored strong winds. That was not all. When he punched out, there was even a sword energy that followed him like a shadow. It contained an extremely terrifying sword concept. Boom! 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 When Duanling Tian punched out, the air was compressed once again, and it gave rise to a wave of explosive sounds that sounded like thunder. Not only that, the airwave that was filled with an extremely strong impact force spread out in all directions and gave rise to waves of piercingly cold gales that collided with the scorching gales that Lei Zhong gave rise to. Following that, another series of explosions rang out, rising and falling one after another, continuous and unending. The robes of the people present fluttered in the wind, making flapping sounds. However, none of them paid attention to all of this. Their gazes were locked tightly onto the two people that were about to collide. More precisely speaking, it was the two fists that were about to collide. Whoosh! The flames on Lei Zhong's body skyrocketed and raged as he punched out. It was like the fury of the god of fire that tore through the sky and gave rise to a scorching aura that covered the heavens and the earth that enveloped Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! The violet clothes on Duan Lingtian's body fluttered and swelled as he punched out. The punch that contained his origin energy and 4 types of concepts that were mixed together met Lei Zhong head-on without holding back. Bang! Both of their fists collided in an instant. The two forces collided with each other and gave rise to a deafening loud bang. In the air, waves of air could be clearly seen spreading out like ripples, spreading out in all directions. Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyong, whose cultivation base was weaker, changed their expressions. They could only feel the qi and blood in their bodies surging as they were faintly affected. So powerful! Seeing that Duan Lingtian was not at a disadvantage when he punched out with his bare hands and collided with Lei Zhong's fist, Huang Daniu and the other two calmed down the surging qi and blood in their bodies. Their eyes lit up. Bang! 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 With the point where Duan Lingtian and Lei Zhong's fists collided as the center, the airwave that was like a ripple spread out like a ripple. Gusts of wind that were even more powerful gushed out. Crack! Crack! In an instant, the hair bands on Duan Lingtian and Lei Zhong's heads broke almost at the same time. Their long hair fluttered in the wind like tiny black snakes dancing in the air. Bang! 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 At the point where Duan Lingtian and Lei Zhong's fists collided, both of their energies continued to collide and collide, setting off a series of deafening explosions. They were evenly matched. How's this possible? Upon seeing this, Zhuoyu's eyes narrowed. Disbelief was written all over his face. He found it hard to believe that everything before his eyes was real. That Duan Lingtian, a young disciple from a mere third-rate force who looked like he was only 25 years old, was actually able to fight Lei Zhong to a draw and be evenly matched with him? This Duan Lingtian is even more powerful than Lei Zhong? Su Qing, who was originally calm, could not help but be moved. He muttered to himself, in the fight between them, Lei Zhong had the upper hand and made the first move. Even so, Duan Lingtian, who hurriedly punched out, was still able to take Lei Zhong's punch head-on. The energy contained in Duan Lingtian's punch is definitely more powerful than Lei Zhong's. If it's only evenly matched with Lei Zhong, it's impossible for him to be in a stalemate with Lei Zhong when he hurriedly punched out. Compared to Zhuoyu, Su Qing had a clearer understanding of the scene before his eyes. Duan Lingtian was even more powerful. As though it set off Su Qing's mutterings at the same time, the rolling heaven and earth energy above Duan Lingtian's head finally gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. 1,200 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons condensed into form and descended in an imposing manner. Such a heaven and earth phenomenon was undoubtedly telling the truth. The punch that Duan Lingtian threw out with his bare hands contained the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons. Compared to the 1,100 ancient horned dragon's strength contained in the Thunderbell fist, it was 100 ancient horned dragon's strength more. 1,200 ancient horned dragon's strength. Duan Lingtian's third-level void transformation cultivation base was equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragon's strength. Third-level advanced wind concept was equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragon's strength. The ninth-level intermediate earth concept and sword concept combined was equivalent to 200 ancient horned dragon's strength. Coupled with the first-level advanced thunder concept that was equivalent to 200 ancient horned dragon's strength, it was exactly 1,200 ancient horned dragon's strength. That was right. Duan Lingtian's thunder concept had made a breakthrough. On the same day that he killed Lei Jun, he successfully made a breakthrough from the ninth-level intermediate stage to the first-level advanced stage. Boom! Another loud explosion reverberated in the air. At the same time that the heaven and earth phenomenon above Duan Lingtian's head consolidated, the purple lightning on his fist became even more profound and raging. At the same time, Duan Lingtian caught his breath from the disadvantage of losing the initiative due to his hasty attack. His entire body erupted with the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons as he charged out. After turning the tables around, the result of the 1,200 ancient horn dragon's strength against Lei Zhong's 1,100 ancient horn dragon's strength was obvious. Crushing. It was a complete and utter suppression. Impossible. He was sent flying by Duan Lingtian's punch. Lei Zhong did not scream when he felt a bone-piercing pain from his hand. Instead, he narrowed his eyes. He could not believe what was happening before his eyes. A mere disciple from a third-rate force was actually able to suppress him in one fell swoop under the situation where he had the initiative and gained the initiative? Regardless of whether Lei Zhong was willing to believe it or not, his strength was inferior to Duan Lingtian. It was an undeniable fact that he was sent flying and was heavily injured. Barf. Lei Zhong, who was sent flying by Duan Lingtian's punch, finally managed to stabilize his body after flying for over 100 meters. At the same time, he could not help but spit out a mouthful of dazzling blood. I'm injured? I'm injured by a young disciple from a third-rate force? Lei Zhong wiped the corner of his mouth and looked at the blood on his hand. His eyes narrowed, and his face became a little stiff. However, soon after, he seemed to have noticed something. With a jolt, he regained his senses. This was because he noticed that Duan Lingtian, the disciple from the third-rate force 5-element sect, did not seem to want to stop after sending him flying with just one punch. Duan Lingtian's eyes were cold, and his face was covered with frost. He stepped out in the air at a speed that was neither fast nor slow as he flew towards Lei Zhong. A cold killing intent flickered in his eyes. In his opinion, he wanted to kill the number one powerhouse among the younger generation in Izumo sect. Not only did he want to make his opponent pay for his rashness, but more importantly, he wanted to establish his dominance. At this moment, more and more people started to appear in this huge cave. Among them, there was no lack of disciples from Anika sect, North Nether sect, and Izumo sect. Bang! 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 At this moment, the scene was so quiet that it was terrifying. Every time Duan Lingtian took a step forward, the air would vibrate and emit a soft sound. Chapter 985. Bang! Bang! Every step that Duan Lingtian took was like a giant hammer slamming on Lei Zhong's chest, causing his breathing to quicken. He could not calm down for a long time. Lei Zhong's face turned grave when he noticed the killing intent in Duan Lingtian's eyes. He quickly took out a healing pill and consumed it. However, with his current injuries, it would be difficult for him to recover in a short time even if he consumed the healing pill. It affected his strength. Whoosh! A saber suddenly appeared in Lei Zhong's uninjured left hand. It was a thick saber. As the flame in his hand soared and merged with the saber, a saber ray bloomed. Whoosh! In the void above his head, the heaven and earth energy consolidated 1,100 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons again. Then, more than 520 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. More than 1,620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons hovered in the void above Lei Zhong's head. They were ready to attack at any time. However, perhaps it was because he had not recovered from his injuries. The 1,620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above Lei Zhong's head were extremely unstable. In just a few moments, the number of silhouettes decreased to 1,500. Then, the number dropped to 1,400. After that, there were no more than 1,500 silhouettes. At this moment, a sword appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand as he took a step forward. It was a quasi-royal grade spirit sword. As soon as the quasi-royal grade spirit sword appeared, along with Duan Lingtian's energy surging into it, another 400 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared beside the 1,200 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above Duan Lingtian's head. 1,600 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. Such a heaven and earth phenomenon was enough to shock people. However, many of the people present could not help but be stunned. These people were Zui Yu, Su Qing, Peng Bao, and the other young disciples from the second-rate forces. Duan Lingtian only has the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons after using his spirit weapon? Compared to Lei Zhong, who used his spirit weapon in his prime, he's more than 20 ancient horned dragons weaker? However, without using his spirit weapon, his strength is more than 100 ancient horned dragons stronger than Lei Zhong. What's going on? Could it be that he's hiding something? That's the only way. Otherwise, wouldn't Lei Zhong be defeated in vain today? Due to the fact that Lei Zhong was severely injured by Duan Lingtian, it's difficult for him to unleash his full strength. Even if he uses his spirit weapon, his strength won't surpass the strength of 150 ancient horned dragons. The people who were discussing animatedly were the disciples of Anika sect and North Nether sect, who had made it to the central area of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. There were no more than 5 of them in total. There was a hint of schadenfreude in their words. In their opinion, as long as Duan Lingtian dared to kill Lei Zhong would definitely die today. The 2 surviving Izumo sect disciples had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. Lei Zhong was the strongest person among the younger generation in Izumo sect. In their eyes, he was the invincible god of battle. However, today the invincible war god in their eyes was at a disadvantage in front of a disciple from a third-rate force. Moreover, his life was in danger. At this moment, almost all of the disciples from the second-rate forces who had made it to this place knew the identity of Duan Lingtian. They had already heard of the name Duan Lingtian before they came here. The strongest person among the younger generation in the third-rate force 5-element sect had obtained a profundity fragment at the periphery of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. To think that I still wanted to encounter this Duan Lingtian and kill him to snatch the profundity fragment in his hands. Now that I think about it, it's fortunate that I didn't encounter him. Otherwise, the one who would die would definitely be me. One of the Izumo sect's disciples smiled wryly. Of course. Even senior brother Lei Zhong was severely injured by him. How can we compare to his strength? With such strength, it's no wonder that he could obtain the profundity fragment. The other Izumo sect's disciple agreed. Then he added, however, as long as he's not crazy, I don't think he would dare to kill senior brother Lei Zhong. Otherwise, not only him, but even the third-rate force 5-element sect that he's in would have to bear the wrath of our Izumo sect. That's right. Unless he can kill all of us who witnessed him killing senior brother Lei Zhong with our own eyes. Otherwise, even if he kills senior brother Lei Zhong, he won't be able to live. Not only that, but his sect will also be implicated. The Izumo sect's disciple in front agreed. At this moment, most of the other people also felt that Duan Lingtian would not dare to kill Lei Zhong. After all, killing Lei Zhong was equivalent to offending Izumo sect. Izumo sect was one of the 3 most powerful second-rate forces in the northern desert. They only needed to send out a martial monarch powerhouse to remove the third-rate force, 5-element sect, from the northern desert without any effort. However, how could they guess Duan Lingtian's thoughts? When they saw Duan Lingtian increasing his speed and charging toward Lei Zhong again, and in just 3 moves he sent the thick saber in Lei Zhong's hand flying and severely injured him again, they were stunned. They were completely dumbfounded. This disciple from a third-rate force was actually so powerful? When they saw Duan Lingtian lifting his hand and leisurely swinging his sword to pierce Lei Zhong's throat and kill him, he's crazy. This Duan Lingtian is crazy. Isn't he afraid of Izumo sect's revenge? At this moment, other than the 2 young disciples from Izumo sect who were stunned, the disciples from Anika sect and North Nether sect could not help but mutter to themselves. They felt their scalps go numb. Was this purple-clad young man really a disciple from a third-rate force? Since when did a disciple from a third-rate force become so bold? Duan Lingtian. Just when Zhuo Yu Suqing and Peng Bao were shocked by Duan Lingtian's actions, Peng Bao cried out anxiously, trying to stop Duan Lingtian from killing Lei Zhong. In his opinion, if Duan Lingtian swung his sword, not only would he die, but the third-rate force 5-element sect would also be annihilated. As a disciple of Anika sect, he knew very well. The wrath of Izumo sect was no joke. If a disciple from a third-rate force dared to kill him, the result would be the same. The Anika sect that he was in would spare no effort to kill the disciple from the third-rate force before annihilating the third-rate force. The dignity of a second-rate force could not be blasphemed by a third-rate force. In the eyes of a second-rate force, a person from a third-rate force, or even the third-rate force, was like an ant that could not even withstand a single blow. Upon hearing Peng Bao's voice, Duan Lingtian's right hand shook and moved the sword away. However, his left hand did not remain idle as he slammed his palm down and heavily injured Lei Zhong again. Barf! Lei Zhong spat out another mouthful of blood. His face was pale and bloodless. His body swayed as though he would fall from the sky at any time. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian reached out his left hand and grabbed Lei Zhong's throat, lifting him up forcefully. At this moment, Lei Zhong would definitely die if he exerted more force in his hand. As Duan Lingtian lifted Lei Zhong up by his neck, he looked at Peng Bao with a hint of confusion in his eyes. What's wrong? Duan Lingtian, you can hurt Lei Zhong if you want, but don't kill him on impulse. Everything will be fine if he doesn't die. If he dies, not only you but even the 5-element sect behind you will definitely be annihilated. Peng Bao did not beat around the bush and bluntly voiced his concerns. The reason he said all this was because he regarded Duan Lingtian as a friend. He did not want to see Duan Lingtian walk on the path of no return. 5-element sect? Upon hearing Peng Bao's words, Duan Lingtian frowned and sighed. Forgot. It's difficult for 5-element sect to deal with the wrath of Izumo sect. Duan Lingtian's voice was not loud, but it entered everyone's ears. For a moment, almost everyone present, including Feng Qianwu, thought Duan Lingtian would not kill Lei Zhong anymore. This Duan Lingtian finally gave in. Of course. The wrath of Izumo sect is not something he and 5-element sect can handle. The few young disciples from Anika sect and North Nether sect whispered among themselves. They were not surprised by this outcome at all. As for the 2 young disciples from Izumo sect, they smiled smugly. The fact that Izumo sect had such a great deterrent force made them feel proud to be Izumo sect's disciples. Cough. Duan Lingtian, you don't dare to kill me after all. Today I'll definitely step into 5-element sect and make you pay 10 times, no 100 times for everything you've done to me today. Lei Zhong, who was lifted up by the neck by Duan Lingtian and humiliated, stared at Duan Lingtian with a pair of extremely cold eyes as he gritted his teeth and said with great difficulty. However, Duan Lingtian did not seem to hear his words. He continued to frown as though he was thinking about something. Finally, Duan Lingtian regained his senses. Today I, Duan Lingtian, hereby announce that from this moment onward, I, Duan Lingtian, am no longer part with 5-element sect. From today onward, the matters of 5-element sect have nothing to do with me, and my matters have nothing to do with 5-element sect as well. Duan Lingtian finally opened his mouth. The moment he opened his mouth, he said something that was inexplicably shocking. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, the entire place fell into a dead silence. What is this Duan Lingtian trying to do? This was what most of the people present were thinking. Elder brother Duan, Feng Qianwu, was the first to react. She realized what Duan Lingtian was going to do next. Her beautiful face was filled with solemnity. Brother Lingtian, don't be rash. Even if you leave 5-element sect, Izumo sect will not attack 5-element sect out of respect. However, you'll have to bear the wrath of Izumo sect and be hunted down by them. It's not worth it to offend the entire Izumo sect just because of Lei Zhong. Soon after, Peng Bao also reacted. His expression changed again as he hurriedly advised. Duan Lingtian, Brother Lingtian, Huang Dainiu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyong looked at Duan Lingtian worriedly. They were afraid that Duan Lingtian would really kill Lei Zhong and bring trouble to himself. You're Lei Zhong. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian looked at Lei Zhong and asked in a calm tone. That's right. I'm Lei Zhong, the direct disciple of the only martial emperor in Izumo sect. Chapter 986. Slap. Almost at the same time when Lei Zhong's words left his mouth, a clear sound of a slap reverberated in the air and entered everyone's ears. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian lifted his hand and gave Lei Zhong a loud slap. A clear palm print was left on half of Lei Zhong's face, causing it to swell. For a moment the crowd felt their scalps go numb. This Duan Lingtian was too awesome, right? He even dared to slap Lei Zhong after he said he was the direct disciple of a martial monarch powerhouse. They had to admit that they admired Duan Lingtian's courage from the bottom of their hearts. However, admiration was one thing, but it did not mean they agreed with Duan Lingtian's actions. You're seeking death. At the same time, many people felt that Duan Lingtian was seeking death, including Zuoyu, the strongest person among the younger generation in Anika sect. At this moment, Zuoyu looked at Duan Lingtian as though he was looking at a dead man. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian's action was undoubtedly challenging the dignity of the martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect. Even if Duan Lingtian could make it out alive from Emperor Wu's secret treasure, he would definitely die. It was impossible for the martial monarch powerhouse to let him go. I'm only asking if you're Thunderbell. Did I ask whose direct disciple you are? After giving Lei Zhong a slap, Duan Lingtian said calmly as he looked at Lei Zhong, who was glaring at him furiously. He could not wait to turn him into ashes. You, Lei Zhong's eyes narrowed. He wanted to say something. Slap. Another loud slap landed on the other half of Lei Zhong's face, turning his face into a pig's head. Did I ask you to speak? After giving Lei Zhong another slap, Duan Lingtian continued to look at Lei Zhong calmly. Lei Zhong was so humiliated that he glared at Duan Lingtian with even more hatred. However, he did not dare to say anything. He believed that if he dared to say a single word now, the other party would definitely not hesitate to give him another slap. This purple-clothed youth was simply a lunatic, an out-and-out lunatic. When the crowd saw Duan Lingtian giving Lei Zhong another slap, they felt their scalps go numb again. They felt that Duan Lingtian was too bold. He did not even take a martial monarch realm expert seriously. Do you think I don't dare to kill you? Duan Lingtian's tone was still calm as he stared at Lei Zhong and asked word by word. This time Lei Zhong didn't say anything. However, the cold glint in his eyes undoubtedly showed what he thought in his heart. Smack! Another resounding slap rang out, shocking the onlookers to the point that their heartbeats quickened, and all of them felt a chill run down their spines. Didn't you hear me? Duan Lingtian, who gave Lei Zhong another slap, causing Lei Zhong's eyes to almost pop out of their sockets, spoke once more. His voice wasn't calm any longer, and it seemed to contain a trace of coldness. Don't tell me you dare to kill me? Finally, Lei Zhong swallowed a mouthful of blood that he almost spat out and asked in a hoarse and cold voice, You're called Lei Zhong. I wonder how is Lei Jun, the second strongest person among the younger generation in Izumo sect, related to you? Duan Lingtian ignored Lei Zhong and continued to ask. He had a feeling that both Lei Zhong and Lei Jun had the surname Lei, and they were both the most outstanding disciples among the younger generation in Izumo sect. He's my younger brother, and he's also the direct disciple of our Izumo sect's sect leader. When Lei Zhong heard Duan Lingtian mentioning Lei Jun, his pale face was filled with pride. Your younger brother? What a coincidence! Duan Lingtian smiled. His smile was exceptionally radiant. In the end, his voice gradually turned cold as though it came from an ice cave. Do you think that since I dared to kill your younger brother, I wouldn't dare to kill you? Gasp! The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, the entire place was in an uproar. Duan Lingtian had killed Lei Zhong's younger brother, Lei Jun, the direct disciple of the sect leader of Izumo sect? It's over. It's over. When Peng Bao heard Duan Lingtian's words, he was stunned before a wry smile appeared on his face. He knew that from the moment Duan Lingtian said those words, it was destined that Duan Lingtian and Izumo sect would not rest until one of them was dead. No wonder I didn't see Lei Jun. He must have arrived at the central area of Emperor Wu's secret treasure earlier than us. I can't believe he's already dead. At this moment it was not only Peng Bao. Even Huang Dainiu Su Li and Zhang Shouyong were struck by a realization. As for where and when Lei Jun died, it was not difficult for them to figure it out. Some time ago, Lei Jun had a falling out with Peng Bao and left on his own. They were on their way to the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure with Duan Lingtian. During this period they had only separated once. It was when they went their separate ways to explore the cave with 6 entrances. Come to think of it, Duan Lingtian must have encountered Lei Jun at that time and killed him. This Duan Lingtian is dead meat. Zuyu sneered. He was clearly rejoicing in Lei Jun's misfortune. Su Qing's expression was calm, but he could not help but reveal a hint of surprise in his eyes. He was surprised by Duan Lingtian's boldness. It seems like Lei Zhong is dead meat this time. Su Qing sighed inwardly. Since Duan Lingtian had publicly announced that he had killed Lei Jun, it was clear that he was determined to kill Lei Zhong. What? You killed my brother. Lei Zhong's eyes narrowed, and his pale face changed again. His body, which was held by Duan Lingtian by the neck, trembled violently due to anger. His eyes were filled with extreme coldness. "You're dead meat. You're dead meat." Lei Zhong roared in a hoarse voice. "You won't have the chance to see if I'm dead meat or not." Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly tightened his grip on Lei Zhong's neck. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking reverberated in the air. It sent chills down the spines of the onlookers as their scalps went numb. Under the watchful eyes of the onlookers, Lei Zhong, whose eyes were wide open, did not even have the time to scream before his head swung to the side. He was no longer breathing. His eyes, which were originally filled with anger, became dull and lifeless. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian lifted his hand and removed the spatial ring from Lei Zhong's hand. At the same time, he released his grip and allowed Lei Zhong's body to fall. He fell from a height of hundreds of meters and turned into a pile of mush. Silence. The scene was terrifyingly quiet. At this moment, the young monk looked at the purple-clad young man standing in the distance in a daze. He did not regain his senses for a long time. Zhang Yan's voice transmission caused him to shudder and regain his senses. He could not help but smile wryly as he replied through voice transmission. What else could it be? Duan Lingtian killed Lei Zhong from Izumo sect. When Duan Lingtian displayed the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons without using any spirit weapon, Zhang Yan knew what he was doing. He knew he was far from being a match for Duan Lingtian. Lei Zhong? Where have I heard this name before? Chapter 987. Izumo sect. Xianbei reminded him. In the northern desert, the three second-rate forces Izumo sect, Enika sect, and North Nether sect undoubtedly stood at the peak. As one of the many third-rate forces in the northern desert, although they did not have much interaction with the second-rate forces, they still heard about some of the things that happened in the second-rate forces. Lei Zhong? Izumo sect? After Xianbei's reminder, Zhang Yan's thoughts gradually became clearer. Soon his face was filled with shock. His eyes could not help but narrow as he muttered, "Could this Lei Zhong be the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in Izumo sect?" Then Zhang Yan looked at Duan Lingtian and felt his scalp go numb. This Duan Lingtian, his strength. How much has he improved? He can even kill Lei Zhong from Izumo sect. He had long heard about Lei Zhong, the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in Izumo sect. According to the rumors, Lei Zhong's cultivation base had already entered the 4th level void transformation, and he had even comprehended the 4th level advanced fire concept. In the entire northern desert, he was considered a top powerhouse among the young powerhouses. He was far from what he could compare to now. However, such a powerful young powerhouse had been killed by Duan Lingtian. For a moment, Zhang Yan could not help but be shocked by Duan Lingtian's current strength. At the same time, he could not help but break out in cold sweat for Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian is really bold. He actually dares to kill Lei Zhong. It's said that Lei Zhong is not only the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in Izumo sect, but he's also the direct disciple of the martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect. He had killed the direct disciple of a martial monarch powerhouse in front of so many people. Zhang Yan could almost foresee Duan Lingtian's fate in the future. Duan Lingtian killed Lei Zhong, the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in Izumo sect? Duan Lingtian has already announced that he's leaving our 5-element sect? Nangongchan, Nangongyi, Tanhuan and Tianjun, who had rushed to the central area of Emperor Wu's secret treasure, were all shocked by the news they heard from the other 5-element sect's disciples. Even though Nangongchen's expression was still cold, his eyes were filled with fear. Tian Wu, the energy in your body seems to be extremely unstable. When you tried to mobilize and cast the fire profundity earlier, I could clearly feel that it was completely out of your control. Duan Lingtian, who had become the center of attention, did not care about the gazes of others. He once again returned to Feng Tianwu's side and spoke with a solemn expression via voice transmission. Not only that, once you cast the fire profundity, it might trigger the fire spirit body's energy in your body and cause it to erupt in advance. At that time, I'm afraid your life will be in danger. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, a hint of worry could be seen between his brows. Elder brother Duan, you don't have to worry. If it's not necessary, I won't cast the fire profundity. Feng Tianwu's heart was filled with warmth when she heard Duan Lingtian's concern. Her beautiful face blushed slightly as she replied softly and obediently. All right. Upon hearing Feng Tianwu's words, Duan Lingtian felt relieved. As long as Feng Tianwu did not mobilize and cast the fire profundity by force, the fire spirit body's energy in her body would not erupt. At the same time, Duan Lingtian looked around and noticed that there were many more familiar faces at the scene. For example, Zhang Yan, Nangong Chan, Nangong Yi, Tan Huan, Tianzhan, and the other 5 element sect's disciples, Empyrean Temple's disciples, Blade sect's disciples, and Emotion Severing sect's disciples. Unfortunately, Chun Wei didn't make it here alive. The moment he thought of Chun Wei, Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh. Looks like the show of strength earlier is still effective. Duan Lingtian glanced at the group of young powerhouses around him and noticed that most of them had a hint of fear in their eyes when they looked at him. Even Su Qing, the strongest person among the younger generation in North Nether sect, and Zuoyu, the strongest person among the younger generation in Anika sect, had a hint of dread in their eyes when they looked at him. Jinbei, you said earlier that you're interested in the profundity fragment in my hand? Are you trying to snatch it away from me? As though he was reminded of something, Duan Lingtian suddenly looked at Xianbei with a faint smile on his face. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, everyone's eyes shifted to Xianbei. This monk from Empyrean Temple suddenly became the center of attention. Haha, bald donkey. Didn't you want to snatch the profundity fragment in Duan Lingtian's hand earlier? You were interrupted earlier, so you didn't succeed. Now that nobody interrupted you, why aren't you snatching it away? Huang Daniu could not help but look at Xianbei when he recalled the earlier scene. He laughed mockingly. What? Senior brother Xianbei wanted to snatch the profundity fragment in Duan Lingtian's hand earlier? The few surviving Empyrean Temple disciples looked at each other in disbelief. They could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. At this moment there was only one thought in their minds. Was senior brother Xianbei's head kicked by a donkey? When Duan Lingtian looked at him, Xianbei realized something was wrong. When Duan Lingtian repeated what he said earlier, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch. What a joke. The reason he said those words earlier was because he thought he could defeat Duan Lingtian with his strength. However, after witnessing Duan Lingtian's strength, he completely dispelled the thought of fighting with Duan Lingtian. He did not want to be humiliated. Duan Lingtian, the agreement between you and me is over. I know I'm no match for you. Taking a deep breath, Xianbei no longer cared about his reputation. His expression was that of a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. Duan Lingtian looked at Xianbei deeply. He did not intend to argue with him. He did not have a good impression of this little monk from Empyrean Temple, but he did not have a bad impression of him either. As for what the other party said earlier, he did not take it to heart. Even if Xianbei was in his position and possessed the profundity fragment, he would also say the same thing if he was in Xianbei's position. After all, as long as one was a martial artist, they would be interested in the profundity fragment. Duan Lingtian, after leaving Emperor Wu's secret treasure, run as far as you can. Since you've announced your departure from 5 Element Sect in front of so many people, I don't think Izumo Sect will attack 5 Element Sect for the sake of their reputation. However, you're different. A voice transmission that was filled with concern sounded out by Duan Lingtian's ears. For the sake of taking revenge for Lei Zhong and Lei Jun, Izumo Sect will surely spare no expense to kill you. Fortunately, you didn't come in through the same entrance as us. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to escape even if you wanted to. The person who sent the voice transmission was none other than Peng Bao, the Anika Sect's disciple. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Duan Lingtian looked at Peng Bao, who was looking at him with concern. He felt warmth in his heart as he responded with a smile. Just like what he had said, he knew what he was doing. Since he dared to kill Lei Zhong, it meant he had prepared a way out for himself. Leaving 5 Element Sect was only the first step. Naturally, the most important reason for leaving 5 Element Sect was that he did not want to implicate 5 Element Sect because of his own matters. He could leave without a word, but 5 Element Sect could not. If 5 Element Sect was annihilated by Izumo Sect because of him, he would not be at ease. Is this the palace left behind by the martial emperor powerhouse? Was it the place where he died? Suddenly someone said, "That's right." At this moment everyone, including Duanling Tian, shifted their attention away from Xianbei to the gigantic palace. Their eyes shone brightly. They had come all the way here for the palace left behind by the martial emperor powerhouse. Putting aside the other treasures in this palace, the profound profundity fragment contained the profound profundity fragment. Just the 3 profundity fragments in Emperor Wu's body alone were enough to drive anyone crazy. One of them was an Emperor stage profundity fragment. The palace is surrounded by densely packed killing formations. How am I supposed to get in? Duanling Tian extended his spiritual energy. The moment it shrouded the palace, he discovered the terrifying killing formations. The power of these killing formations was in no way inferior to the killing formation at entrance number 2. Profundity fragment. Just when Duanling Tian was feeling wary, a blade sect's disciple exclaimed excitedly. He dove down and dashed toward the palace, wanting to be the first to enter. As the saying went, the early bird gets the worm. Perhaps, in his opinion, the first person to enter the palace would have a higher chance of finding Emperor Wu's body and obtaining the profundity fragment in Emperor Wu's body. Whoosh! The blade sect's disciple was extremely fast. In just a moment, he arrived in front of the palace and dashed toward the entrance. Haha! The blade sect's disciple stood outside the palace and laughed excitedly. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a bolt of lightning as he dashed toward the entrance. When the young powerhouses from the other forces saw the blade sect's disciple making his move, they were eager to make their move as well. However, what happened in the next moment caused fear to appear on their faces. They immediately became obedient. The blade sect's disciple flew out. However, before he could even get close to the entrance of the palace, it was as though he was blocked by an invisible force. Boom! In the next instant, under the watchful eyes of the others, the blade sect's disciple's body mysteriously exploded and turned into a bloody rain that splattered in front of the entrance of the palace. Gasp! 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 Upon seeing this, the only thing that could be heard was the sound of people sucking in cold air. It's an inscription formation. Soon after, someone regained his senses. The way he looked at the gigantic palace changed completely. The way everyone looked at the palace was no longer as though they were looking at a pile of rare treasures. Instead, it was more like they were looking at a ferocious and terrifying beast. Their eyes were filled with fear. There's a killing formation around the palace. How are we going to get in? Many young powerhouses frowned. They had a troubled expression on their faces. The treasure was right in front of them. However, it was still a problem whether they could make it in alive. Since that Emperor Wu left this place behind and asked us to retrieve the 3 profundity fragments from his body, it's impossible for him to reject us. Chapter 988. Indeed. Since Emperor Wu left such a place behind, and his body is inside, logically speaking, it's impossible for him to not let us in. Many people agreed. Just when everyone was at a loss over the killing formation that enveloped the palace, Duanling Tian's spiritual energy that he extended out discovered an inkling of something. He discovered something. After the blade sect's disciple was killed by the killing formation that shrouded the palace, the killing formation seemed to have completed its mission. It gradually faded away before it disappeared. Don't tell me that the killing formation that the martial emperor set up outside the palace can be broken as long as someone offers their life as a sacrifice? Duanling Tian thought to himself as he raised his eyebrows. Since he had merged with the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, he was no stranger to the idea of breaking a formation with a blood sacrifice. As long as the inscription master who set up the killing formation had the intention, he could set up the killing formation so that it could be broken with a blood sacrifice. As long as someone died under the killing formation, the killing formation would automatically be broken. Lucky young people, welcome. Just as Duanling Tian was lost in his thoughts, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice entered the ears of everyone present on the scene, causing their faces to turn slightly solemn. After the killing formation is broken, a polyphony formation has been activated. Duanling Tian's spiritual force noticed this at the first possible moment. It's the voice of that Emperor Wu powerhouse. At once, the group of young powerhouses present recognized the owner of the voice. Ever since they entered the Emperor Wu's secret treasure, they had heard this voice a few times. Soon after, the voice of the Emperor Wu powerhouse that left a message in the polyphony formation resonated again. The blood sacrifice is complete, and the killing formation is broken. Lucky young people, all of you can enter now. The voice of the Emperor Wu powerhouse did not contain any emotions. It was extremely cold. The blood sacrifice is complete? When the group of young powerhouses present heard the words of the Emperor Wu powerhouse, they were stunned before they regained their senses. Horror dawned on them one after another. If that's the case, does this mean that it was that blade sect's disciple who used his own life to break the killing formation for us? According to the message left by the Emperor Wu, it was obvious that one of them had to die in order to break the killing array. Fortunately, I wasn't in a hurry to go in just now. Otherwise, I might have been the one to use the blood sacrifice array. It's too cruel. A person's life is required to be sacrificed in order to activate the killing formation outside this palace. Perhaps the inside of the palace is even more dangerous. The young experts present discussed animatedly. Their brows were filled with fear. They were afraid of the palace left behind by Emperor Wu. They were afraid of the dangers that might exist inside. Even Zui Yu and Su Qing didn't act rashly after hearing Emperor Wu's message. Let's go. Duan Lingtian smiled at Feng Tianwu, then called out to Huang Daniu, Su Li and Zhang Shouyong. He nodded at Peng Bao and took the lead to dive down. Feng Tianwu followed closely behind. She trusted Duan Lingtian unconditionally. As long as Duan Lingtian was by her side, she would not be afraid even if she had to go through a mountain of swords or a sea of flames. In her opinion, even if she had to die, she would have no regrets as long as she could die by the side of the person she loved. Let's go. Huang Daniu and the other two did not hesitate this time. When Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu moved, they followed closely behind. Duan Lingtian descended from the sky and opened a path with his spiritual energy. He flew straight to the entrance of the palace and arrived in front of the magnificent door in just a moment. Duan Lingtian stood in front of the door. He stretched out his hands and pressed them on the door. Suddenly he exerted his strength. Rumble! 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 Suddenly the door opened slowly. It was majestic. Let's go. After opening the door, Duan Lingtian called out to the four people beside him and took the lead to fly in. Whoosh! 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 Feng Tianwu and the other three followed behind Duan Lingtian. Their figures instantly disappeared behind the door that was not fully opened. They completely disappeared before the eyes of the people outside. They're fine. Many people's eyes lit up immediately. Let's go in as well. Nangongyi raised his eyebrows. He flew out with Nangong Chan and entered the palace through the open door. Let's go. Zhang Yan and Xian Bei brought the surviving emotion severing sect's disciples and Empyrean Temple's disciples and followed them. Subsequently, Peng Bao, Zui Yu, and Su Qing also brought the Anika sects and North Nether sect's disciples and followed them in. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian was the first to enter the palace. As soon as he entered, his spiritual energy detected the dense aura fluctuations of inscription formations that were emitted from within. Among them, there was an inscription formation that practically enveloped the earth and sky regions that they had to pass through. Illusory formation. Duan Lingtian came to a halt. As he muttered to himself, his face turned solemn. This was because the inscription formation he discovered earlier was this illusory formation. If he wanted to enter the palace, he would have to go through it. As long as he entered the illusory formation, he would fall into an illusion. As for where he would end up after he passed through the illusion, it was not something he could control. Illusory formation? Feng Tianwu and the other three who were following behind Duan Lingtian heard Duan Lingtian's whisper, and could not help but be shocked. They did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words at all. Yes, it's an illusory formation. Duan Lingtian nodded and said solemnly, this illusory formation does not have any lethality. It's similar to the illusory formation we've experienced earlier. It's only used to separate us so we can search for treasures in this palace. Illusory formation was the abbreviation of illusory formation. If we want to enter the palace, we'll have to go through it. Therefore, I'm afraid the four of us will have to part ways here. Duanling Tian said. What's that Emperor Wu trying to do? He's always trying to separate us. I still want to be with you and reap more benefits. Huang Daniu looked at Duanling Tian and said unhappily, how would I know what he's trying to do? Duanling Tian was speechless when he saw Huang Daniu complaining to him. He rolled his eyes at Huang Daniu. Then, everyone has to be careful. Zhang Shouyong said. Yes. Su Li nodded. Tian Wu. Duanling Tian looked at Feng Qianwu who was next to him and said through voice transmission with a solemn expression, if it's not necessary, don't activate or cast the fire profundity again. Otherwise, the energy of the fire spirit body in your body will surely erupt and even harm your life. Okay. Feng Tianwu heard the concern in Duanling Tian's words, and her drop-dead gorgeous face revealed a rare smile that could captivate all living things, causing Duanling Tian to be slightly absent-minded for a moment. Two wisps of crimson red suffused Feng Tianwu's beautiful face when she saw Duanling Tian looking at her in a daze, and it seemed as if blood would drip out from her face. She was extremely embarrassed. Duanling Tian retracted his gaze awkwardly and touched his nose embarrassedly. Then he changed the topic. All of you can go in first. Let's go. Let's go look for that Emperor Wu's body. If I can find it, I'll be rich. Huang Daniu cried out excitedly and flew out. Almost at the same time when Huang Daniu flew out, his figure was concealed by clouds of black mist that appeared out of thin air and disappeared before Duanling Tian and the others' eyes. He had officially activated the illusory formation. Duanling Tian, I'll go in first. Su Li entered the illusory formation after bidding farewell to Duanling Tian. Then Zhang Shouyong followed suit. Elder brother Duan, you have to be careful too. Feng Tianwu warned Duanling Tian. She only entered the illusory formation after getting Duanling Tian's promise. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment 2 figures appeared next to Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian could not help but look at them. With just a glance, Duanling Tian recognized the 2 of them. Nangong Chan and Nangong Yi. Duanling Tian nodded at the 2 of them as a greeting. Then, without waiting for their response, he flew into the black mist and disappeared before the eyes of the Nangong brothers. It's the illusory formation again. Nangong Yi frowned as he looked at the familiar black mist before him. Does this mean the 2 of us are going to be separated again? Earlier, when he first entered, he was separated from Nangong Chan due to the illusory formation at the bottom of the stone stairs on the side of the high platform. After that, they only met again after exploring Emperor Wu's secret treasure for half a month. Moreover, they had to rely on their telepathy. As twin brothers, Nangong Yi and Nangong Chan could sense each other's approximate location as long as the distance between them was not too far apart. Telepathy. Nangong Chan reminded him coolly. Yes, telepathy. How could I forget such an important thing? With our telepathy, we can definitely sense each other's location in this palm-sized palace. Nangong Yi's eyes lit up when he heard Nangong Chen's reminder. Idiot! Nangong Chen replied coolly. Then, before Nangong Yi could react, he flew out and entered the illusory formation that was shrouded in black mist before he disappeared. You're the idiot! Nangong Yi snapped back to his senses and cursed before he followed in with a dissatisfied expression. Soon after, Zhang Yan and Xian Bei arrived as well. It's the illusory formation again. Although they were shocked by the illusory formation before them, the 2 of them did not hesitate and flew into the illusory formation directly. Then the disciples from 5 Element Sect, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple, and Emotion Severing Sect entered one after another. Among the disciples from the 6 major forces that entered from entrance number 2, only the disciples from the 4 major forces survived. As for the disciples from the other 2 major forces, they were all killed. After the group of people from entrance number 2 disappeared into the illusory formation, the group of people from entrance number 1 arrived late and appeared in the palace one by one. The leaders were Su Qing and Zhuo Yu. Let's go. Su Qing called out to the 3 surviving North Nether Sect's disciples and flew into the illusory formation. Duanling Tian, I hope you're really hiding something when you used your spirit weapon earlier. Otherwise, if I find out that the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons that you cast after using your spirit weapon is your full strength, I'll definitely kill you. After Su Qing and the others entered, Zuoyu's eyes flashed coldly. Chapter 989. If Duan Lingtian used his spirit weapon and unleashed his full strength, his strength would only be equivalent to the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons. He was confident he could kill Duan Lingtian. With the 4th level void transformation concept that he had comprehended and his cultivation base at the 4th level void transformation, his strength would be equivalent to the strength of 1,620 ancient horned dragons once he used his spirit weapon. In his opinion, his strength was more than 20 ancient horned dragons stronger than Duan Lingtian. If he still could not kill Duan Lingtian, he would not deserve to be the strongest person among the younger generation in Anika sect. When Duan Lingtian fought with Lei Zhong, he seemed to have used a few types of concepts. Moreover, their levels were quite high. Zuoyu's eyes gleamed as he recalled the scene when Duan Lingtian fought with Lei Zhong. He thought to himself, perhaps, it's because concept is more important than origin energy when he unleashed the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons without using his spirit weapon. Therefore, after using a spirit weapon, the increase in strength from the spirit weapon is not strong. Zuoyu was even more certain when he thought of this. Now I just need to confirm it. Once I confirm that Duan Lingtian's strength is only 1,600 ancient horned dragons when he unleashes his full strength, I'll be able to kill him myself before the people from Izumo sect kill him. Zuoyu's eyes were filled with greed when he thought of this. He was greedy for the profundity fragment in Duan Lingtian's hand. Naturally, Duan Lingtian did not know about Zuoyu's thoughts. Otherwise, he would have been shocked by Zuoyu's judgment. Just as Zuoyu thought, Duan Lingtian's strength was indeed more important than origin energy. The strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons was the limit of the strength that Duan Lingtian could exert at this moment. First the grassland and now the desert? In the illusory formation, Duan Lingtian was in a vast desert. All he could see was yellow sand. There was no green or blue at all. Young man, head east. Just as Duan Lingtian was looking around, not knowing where to go, a familiar yet strange voice came into his ears. It was the voice of the Emperor Wu powerhouse who left the secret treasure of the Emperor Wu. East. After the prompt, Duan Lingtian knew the destination of his trip. He stepped into the air and flew towards the east at lightning speed. Duan Lingtian originally thought that this time would be the same as last time, where they would go all the way to the end. But he soon realized that he was overthinking things. Young man north. Young man west. Young man southwest. The message left by the Emperor Wu in the polyphony formation, coupled with the illusory formation that Duan Lingtian was in, was clearly transmitted into Duan Lingtian's ears, causing Duan Lingtian to be exhausted from running around. Finally, Duan Lingtian reached the end. Where did that Emperor Wu powerhouse lead me to? Why did I have to change direction so many times? Duan Lingtian walked out of the illusory formation curiously. After walking out of the illusory formation, what appeared in front of Duan Lingtian was a long corridor that was extremely spacious. On both sides of the long corridor, there was a row of neat stone rooms. There was a statue at the entrance of each stone room. It was either a human-shaped statue or a beast-shaped statue. They looked so lifelike that they could be mistaken for the real thing. These stone rooms, out of curiosity, Duan Lingtian approached the first stone room and poked his head out to see what was inside. With just a glance, he saw that there was a stone platform in the stone room that was not very spacious. There was a sword on the stone platform. It was an extraordinary sword. A grade 2 spirit sword. Duan Lingtian, who had merged with the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, had inherited the reincarnation Emperor Wu's eyesight as a royal grade weapons craftsman. He could tell the grade of a spirit weapon with just a glance. Ordinary people would need to test the grade of a spirit weapon to verify it. There's a grade 2 spirit sword here? Duan Lingtian was stunned for a moment before he strode into the stone room. Although this sword is only a grade 2 spirit weapon, the material used is not bad. I can keep it. At the same time, Duan Lingtian was about to enter the stone room to keep the grade 2 spirit sword. As soon as he stepped into the stone room, horror dawned on his face. Whoosh! An ear-piercing sound of wind whistling entered his ears in just a blink of an eye, accompanied by a thick and heavy fist. To be more precise, it was a stone fist. The human-shaped statue standing at the entrance of the stone room had moved. As soon as Duan Lingtian entered the stone room, it threw a punch at Duan Lingtian at lightning speed. The human-shaped statue's fist was surrounded by blue waves that contained a vast and rolling energy that seemed to be able to break everything. Whoosh! Unfortunately, as Duan Lingtian raised his hand at lightning speed, the human-shaped statue's stone fist was easily caught by him without any pressure. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian's face was calm. He did not feel any pressure at all. Bang! At this moment, the human-shaped statue moved again. It took a step forward and landed on the ground with a loud thud. Subsequently, its other leg flashed out like a bolt of lightning and attacked towards Duan Lingtian's lower body. The blue ripple rose sharply and seemed to have transformed into a rolling and stormy wave that charged towards Duan Lingtian. At the same time, the heaven and earth energy above its head stirred and finally gathered into 180 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. In other words, the human-shaped statue's attack was equivalent to the strength of 300 ancient horned dragons. 7th level Void Interpretation? 1st level Advanced Water Concept? Although the human-shaped statue's speed was fast, it was like the speed of a turtle in Duan Lingtian's eyes. It was not worth mentioning at all. Duan Lingtian casually kicked out with only origin energy, and it easily broke the human-shaped statue's leg that was attacking him. Bang! The human-shaped statue's broken leg flew out and crashed onto the ground, turning into a pile of gravel and stone chips. Bang! At the same time, Duan Lingtian's hand shook and punched back. The vast energy swept towards the human-shaped statue and shattered it, turning it into stone chips that filled the sky. At the same time, 10 origin stones and a blue fragment appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. The blue fragment was, naturally, the water concept fragment. However, in the face of his powerful strength, even the stronger statues could not withstand a single blow from him. They were all shattered by him easily. There's another stone room over there. When he reached the end of the long corridor, Duan Lingtian saw a stone room in front of him. It was an independent stone room. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian walked over. At this moment, Duan Lingtian sensed a slight fluctuation of an inscription formation. He knew that he must have activated one of the inscription formations. Young man, congratulations on entering the 4-entry-1 stone room. If you're the only one left in the circle of light after an hour, you can enter the 4-entry-1 stone room and obtain the treasure you deserve. 4-entry-1 stone room. Chapter 990. Halo? What's a halo? Duan Lingtian frowned as he looked around. However, he did not see the halo mentioned by the powerhouse Emperor Wu. However, at this moment, he noticed a faint light suddenly shot out from the stone room in front of him. It enveloped him and formed a halo. At this moment, he was completely enveloped by the halo. After an hour, I'll be the only one left in the halo. Then, I'll be able to enter the 4-entry-1 stone room and obtain the treasure inside? Duan Lingtian shifted his attention elsewhere now that he had the halo. Soon after, Duan Lingtian discovered something. Apart from the long corridor that he had walked through, there was another long corridor in each of the other 3 directions of the 4-entry-1 stone room. Don't tell me there's another 3 people? At this moment, Duan Lingtian vaguely guessed the origin of the name 4-entry-1 stone room. 4 to 1. 3 out of 4 would be eliminated and 1 would enter. It seems like I'll have to wait for an hour when there's only 1 person left in the halo. Then the 4-entry-1 stone room will officially open. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to figure this out. I wonder who the other 3 people are. Duan Lingtian looked at the other 3 long corridors with a gleam in his eyes. They're not here yet. It's obvious that they're not strong. It's impossible for them to be Su Qing, Zhou Yu and Peng Bao. It's a good thing that I ran fast. Otherwise, I would have been killed by that stupid stone man. At that time, my reputation would have been completely ruined. All of a sudden, a loud voice resonated from one of the long corridors and entered Duan Lingtian's ears. It made Duan Lingtian's expression turn strange. What a coincidence! The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a ridiculing smile as he looked towards the corridor where the voice came from. At the same time, a tall and sturdy figure appeared in front of him. Duan Lingtian. After the tall and sturdy young man walked out of the corridor, he saw the purple-clothed young man standing not far away. He couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Danyu, we are really fated to meet. Seeing the sturdy young man, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh. The person who came was none other than Huang Danyu. Haha, Duan Lingtian, it seems that my luck is not bad. Even the heavens are helping me, allowing me to meet you here. Let's go. Help me get rid of those broken stone men. I want those spirit artifacts in those bottles of pills, Huang Danyu said with shining eyes. Of course, Duan Lingtian knew what the stone man Huang Danyu was talking about was. It was none other than the human-shaped statues that he had destroyed along the way from the long corridor behind him. Those statues couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. However, to Huang Danyu, some of the statues were existences that were hard to defeat. Let's go. Thinking that there was still almost an hour before the opening of the 4 entrances in one stone room, Duan Lingtian followed Huang Danyu and entered the long corridor that Huang Danyu came from. Once again, Duan Lingtian destroyed the human-shaped and beast-shaped statues that Huang Danyu couldn't handle one by one. As for Huang Danyu, he was enjoying the fruits of Duan Lingtian's labor. He kept the spirit artifacts and pills in the stone rooms one by one with a smile on his face. Danyu, there's something I need to tell you. Seeing how happy Huang Danyu was, Duan Lingtian decided to pour cold water on him to wake him up. Huh? Huang Danyu looked at Duan Lingtian in confusion, but the smile on his face didn't disappear. It's the independent stone room at the end of the long corridor. Only one person can enter. Including you and me, there are a total of 4 people competing. Duan Lingtian told him everything he knew. F***CK. What kind of F***king luck do I have? I can't believe I'm assigned to compete with you. I wonder who are the other 2 unlucky fellas like me? Huang Danyu could not help but curse after listening to Duan Lingtian's words. He had a bitter expression on his face as he spoke. Danyu, you've changed so quickly. Who was the one who said he's lucky and that even God is helping him by allowing him to meet me here? Duan Lingtian looked at Huang Danyu with a faint smile on his face. He clearly remembered what Huang Danyu said when they first met. Well, I didn't know there was a special stone room at that time. I'm so unlucky to be assigned to the same room as a freak like you. Huang Danyu smiled wryly. Very soon he recovered. Fortunately, there are 2 unlucky fellas accompanying me. Let's go and see who the other 2 unlucky fellas are. When Duan Lingtian and Huang Danyu returned to the 4 entrances in one stone room, they noticed 2 young men standing there. The atmosphere was heavy. The 2 young men stood facing each other. The smell of gunpowder could be felt coming from them. It was only when Duan Lingtian appeared that both of them shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian. With just a glance, their faces changed completely. Duan Lingtian. One of them gulped hard and his face was pale. The other person was not any better. When he looked at Duan Lingtian, there was a hint of fear in his eyes as though he had encountered a ferocious beast. How boring. I thought it would be someone from a second-rate force. I didn't expect it to be the 2 of you. Huang Danyu was standing next to Duan Lingtian. He could not help but feel disappointed when he saw the 2 of them. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. Naturally, he knew why Huang Danyu said that. He wanted to see a second-rate force's disciple being humiliated in front of him. Who knew the person who was assigned to the same room as them was not a second-rate force's disciple? Duan Lingtian had some impression of the 2 people in front of him. One of them was an emotion-severing sex disciple, and the other was a secular disciple from the Empyrean Temple. What? Are the 2 of you going to compete with me? Duan Lingtian walked into the light circle around the independent stone room at a leisurely pace. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the 2 people in front of him with a faint smile. No. Of course not. I'll leave now. The 2 of them waved their hands hurriedly and retreated out of the light circle around the independent stone room as though they were escaping. Their figures disappeared into the long corridor that they came from. What a joke. This person was someone who could kill the strongest person among the younger generation in the second-rate force Izumo sect. How would they dare to compete with him? At once, only Duan Lingtian and Huang Danyu were left outside of the 4-entry, one stone room. Huang Danyu retreated out of the light circle tactfully. Duan Lingtian, you're going to be rich this time. The treasures in this independent 4-entry, 1-stone room, must be extraordinary. Huang Daniu stood outside the light circle and looked at Duan Lingtian enviously. Duan Lingtian smiled and did not say anything. However, his sparkling eyes showed that he was looking forward to the treasures in the stone room. Time passed by quietly. An hour passed by quickly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As the light circle around the stone room flashed, a layer of light shield rose around the light circle and shrouded Duan Lingtian and the 4-entry 1-stone room. It seemed to have formed an independent space. Daniu, don't touch that light shield. That's a killing formation. Almost at the same time when the light shield rose, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy probed it and warned Huang Daniu immediately. Huang Daniu nodded solemnly and said, "The door of the stone room is open. Go in quickly." Upon hearing Huang Daniu's reminder, Duan Lingtian noticed that a stone door had appeared at the side of the 4-entry, 1-stone room that was originally closed. The stone door was pushed open and opened. After informing Huang Daniu, Duan Lingtian flew out and entered the stone room. Almost at the same time when Duan Lingtian entered, the stone door at the side of the stone room closed again, trapping Duan Lingtian inside. "Unlucky, I'm really unlucky." Huang Daniu shook his head, turned around, and left in search of another opportunity that belonged to him. Duan Lingtian passed through the stone door and entered the spacious stone room. The stone room that entered his eyes was not much different from the stone rooms that he had entered before. If there was a difference, it would be that there was no spirit weapon here, nor was there a pill bottle that stored pills. Rumble! All of a sudden, a soft sound came from behind, causing Duan Lingtian's expression to change drastically. The moment Duan Lingtian regained his senses, he discovered that the stone door behind him had closed again, trapping him in this airtight stone room. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to break through the door, rumble, rumble, rumble. A series of loud noises came from above, causing Duan Lingtian to raise his head involuntarily. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian saw the ceiling of the stone room move and open by itself, opening up a way for him to leave the stone room. "Young man, congratulations. You're one step closer to my corpse." At this moment, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy probed again. When the ceiling moved, it activated the polyphony formation in the stone room, allowing the voice of the powerhouse, Emperor Wu, to enter his ears again. One step closer? Initially, Duan Lingtian was puzzled by the message left by the powerhouse, Emperor Wu. Soon after, he recalled his experience of advancing to the next round and seemed to have understood something. "It seems like when I'm advancing to the next round, other places are also advancing to the next round. Only the person who makes it to the end will be able to see the body of the powerhouse, Emperor Wu, and obtain the 3 profundity fragments in his body." It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess all of this. The treasure in this stone room. Now that Duan Lingtian knew he was not trapped in the stone room, he heaved a sigh of relief as he looked at the treasure on the stone platform not far away. It was a plant that was planted in a flower pot. It was completely green and shone with a faint green light. To be more precise, it was a blade of grass. When Duan Lingtian saw the shimmering green light on the blade of grass, he knew it was not simple. However, he could not recognize it. All he could do was search through his memories regarding the reincarnation Emperor Wu. Immortal Spirit Herb. Chapter 991. Immortal Spirit Herb. It's an immortal spirit herb. Ha ha ha. Xiongquan's dantian can be repaired. Xiongquan's dantian can be repaired. Duan Lingtian, whose face was filled with wild joy, lost his composure and laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with excitement and joy. Xiongquan. That year, when he was still in the Crimson Sky Kingdom, Xiongquan was someone who followed him silently and did his best for him without any complaints. Even to the extent that when he was in danger many times, it was Xiongquan who helped him out and protected him. A few years later, in the Eternal Jade Restaurant in the ancient city of Everlast in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Xiongquan, in order to protect him, had his dantian crippled by a void initiation stage martial artist and left his side to return to his hometown. Duan Lingtian had never forgotten about the crippling of Xiongquan's dantian all these years. even to the extent that as time passed, he felt more and more guilty in his heart. He owed Xiongquan too much. Last time, when the Dark Han Dynasty's martial competition ended and he returned to his hometown, he did not see Xiongquan because of his guilt. At that time he made up his mind. When he saw Xiongquan again, Xiongquan's dantian would be repaired. I originally thought that I would have to find the great treasure left behind by the reincarnation Emperor Wu to obtain the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill to help Xiongquan repair his dantian. But I never imagined that I would encounter an immortal spirit herb here. Looking at the plant with 3 leaves before him, the excitement in Duan Lingtian's eyes was indescribable. Immortal spirit herb. A legendary medicinal herb. Even in the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, the immortal spirit herb only existed in legends. He had only heard of it but never seen it. Today, Duan Lingtian was able to recognize the immortal spirit herb because of the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu. Although the rebirth martial emperor had never seen an immortal spirit herb before, he had heard many legends about it. He even knew some of the characteristics of the immortal spirit herb. Immortal spirit herbs had upright roots and leaves that flickered with a green glow. Most importantly, the veins on its leaves were completely different from ordinary medicinal herbs. The veins on the leaves of ordinary herbs were straight in the middle and bifurcated on both sides. The patterns on the immortal spirit grass were in the shape of a whirlpool. Strands of green light extended from the center of the whirlpool, giving off an extraordinary feeling. Because of this, Duan Lingtian could confirm that the plant with 2 leaves in front of him was the immortal spirit herb that he had been dreaming of. In the past, he knew about the existence of the immortal spirit herb, and knew that it could help Xiongquan repair his dantian. However, because the immortal spirit grass was too ethereal and illusory, he never thought that he would be able to obtain it. He thought he would only be able to use the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill, or even the royal grade resurrection pill to heal Xiongquan's dantian after he found the great treasure left behind by the rebirth martial emperor. Now that I have this immortal spirit herb, I don't need to wait for the reincarnation Emperor Wu to retrieve the resurrection pill to help Xiongquan recover his dantian. Duan Lingtian was overjoyed as he looked at the immortal spirit herb in front of him. This immortal spirit herb has a total of 3 leaves. I only need one of them to heal Xiongquan's dantian. As for the other 2 leaves, I'll give one to Brother Zhang so that he can heal sister-in-law's dantian. Duan Lingtian had a plan in mind as he looked at the immortal spirit herb in front of him. Zhang Shouyang's wife, Wang Qiong, also had her dantian damaged and could not cultivate. This is the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace. Logically speaking, the 9-9-wood person pass should be stronger than the human-shaped statues and beast-shaped statues on the 1st level of Qingfeng Palace. After comparing his experience on the 1st level of Qingfeng Palace, Duan Lingtian secretly guessed. On top of that, the person who passes the 9-9-wood person pass will only obtain a copper key? Isn't that Qingfeng Emperor Wu too stingy? Duan Lingtian's heart jolted as he thought to himself. On second thought, he felt that something was amiss. This is the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace. Logically speaking, the value of the reward obtained from passing this level would definitely not be lower than the grade 1 spirit weapons and grade 1 pills on the 1st level of Qingfeng Palace. Perhaps there's a secret behind the copper key that I don't know about. Chapter 992. 10 breaths of time was neither long nor short. 10 breaths of time passed quietly as Duan Lingtian's thoughts flashed through his mind. After 10 breaths of time, Duan Lingtian noticed that the mirror image illusory formation around him had disappeared. At the same time, he appeared in a long corridor again. Compared to the corridor on the 1st floor of Qingfeng Palace, the corridor on the 2nd floor of Qingfeng Palace seemed to be narrower. Not only that, but there were also wooden figures standing in the corridor on the 2nd floor of Qingfeng Palace. They were particularly eye-catching. These wooden figures were in groups of 2 or 3. They were either standing on the ground or in the air. They completely blocked the path to the other end of the corridor, not allowing anyone to pass. The group of wooden figures that appeared in the corridor were particularly dull. They did not move at all for a long time. So this is the 9-9 wooden figure stage? Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he raised his eyebrows. When Duanling Tian extended his spiritual energy, he soon discovered the details of each and every one of the wooden figures that blocked his way. These wooden figures were no different from the human-shaped statues and beast-shaped statues on the first floor of Qingfeng Palace. There was an inscription formation set up in their bodies. There were origin stones and concept fragments in their bodies as well. Although Duanling Tian's spiritual energy could not detect the exact strength of the concept fragments in the wooden men's bodies, he was still able to do so. However, it was not difficult for him to guess that these wooden figures were much stronger than the human-shaped statues and beast-shaped statues on the first floor of Qingfeng Palace. If that was not the case, there would be no need for them to be divided into the first and second floors. The wood that made them. It's not simple. Soon after, Duanling Tian extended his spiritual energy and discovered the density of the wood that formed the wooden figures was much higher than ordinary stones. So that's how it is. Although these guys are made of wood, their bodies are much stronger than the statues on the first floor of Qingfeng Palace. Once they attack, their movements will be more agile. Duanling Tian took a deep breath. He did not dare to underestimate these wooden figures anymore. Right? Qingfeng Emperor Wu once said that only the first person to clear the 99 wooden person stage would be able to obtain the copper key and ascend to the third level of Qingfeng Palace. With a flash of inspiration, Duanling Tian recalled the content of the message left behind by Qingfeng Emperor Wu. His expression abruptly changed. Damn it! I actually forgot about this. Thinking that he had wasted so much time, Duanling Tian suddenly became anxious. Why was he attracted by those wooden figures at such a crucial moment? Furthermore, he had even used his spiritual energy to investigate the background of those wooden figures. It was simply superfluous and did not distinguish between the importance of the matter and the importance of the matter. To the current him, the most important thing was to pass the 99 wood puppet stage, obtain the copper key, and ascend to the third floor of Qingfeng Palace. Whirlwind. Duanling Tian no longer dared to hesitate. His body flew out and seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind as he charged to the other end of the long corridor. Just as Duanling Tian seemed to have transformed into a bolt of purple lightning and shuttled through the long corridor, he was about 10 meters away from the 3 wooden figures standing at the front. Crack! 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 The 3 wooden figures' stiff bodies suddenly trembled and produced a series of crisp sounds. It was as though they had been completely activated at this moment. Duanling Tian was not surprised by this. Every time he appeared, there would be a series of ear-piercing sword-whistling sounds. Immediately after, a rain of wood would fall from the sky. Everywhere he passed, the long corridor was covered with countless pieces of wood. I've already killed 78 of them. 3 more to go. 99 wooden stages, 9981. So that's how it is. As soon as he came to a realization, Duanling Tian's eyes flashed as he charged towards the last 3 wooden figures that were charging towards him. Once again he transformed into an extremely swift purple lightning. The 3 wooden figures with 800 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above each of their heads exploded with the power of origin energy and concept on their bodies. Their thunderous attacks blasted towards Duanling Tian in unison. Just in time. This time, Duanling Tian did not use the 3-foot-long sword that was condensed from the khaki energy to deal with them. Instead, he used the most direct method. He punched out with both of his fists. Whoosh! Whoosh! Duanling Tian punched out with both of his fists at full force. 2 waves of khaki energy that was intertwined with purple lightning and green wind swept out. On top of that, it also emitted waves of sharp aura that belonged to the sword concept. Boom! A loud explosion resounded in the narrow long corridor, and a series of obvious echoes reverberated in the air. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the courageous one wins. At the same time, the energy that gushed out of Duanling Tian's fists swept out without any reservation. It carried an overwhelming force as it annihilated the 3 wooden figures' attacks easily. Wherever the energy passed, the 3 wooden figures' attacks were completely crushed. Even the 3 wooden figures were blasted into dust and completely disappeared from this world. Boom! 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 When the last 3 wooden figures were blasted into dust, a series of thunderous explosions resonated in the air, causing the entire second floor of Qing Feng Palace to tremble. It was as though the ground was shaking. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The airwaves that rolled out in all directions set off gusts of strong wind. The broken wood in the long corridor was lifted up, and a long rain of wood began to fall again. At the end of the long corridor, a purple figure stood there. The purple robe on his body fluttered in the wind. It was a purple-clad young man with a cold gaze. He stood there like an invincible god of war. Copper key. Duan Lingtian's gaze immediately fell on a stone platform outside the long corridor. The stone platform stood there alone, and it faintly revealed a sense of desolation. On the stone platform there was a copper key lying there all by itself. The copper key was crescent-shaped. It was unknown what material it was made of, but it was completely different from an ordinary key. The long years did not seem to have left any traces on it. The third floor. I have to go up from here? At the same time, Duan Lingtian looked at the top of the high platform. The ceiling there was exactly the same as the one he saw in the four-way stone room on the first floor of Qing Feng Palace. The surroundings were not sealed, and it was obvious that it could be moved. It hasn't opened yet? Don't tell me the ceiling will only open the way to the third floor of Qing Feng Palace if I take the copper key away? Duan Lingtian's heart jolted. He no longer hesitated and flew out like a goshawk before landing steadily on the stone platform. Duan Lingtian casually lifted his hand and grabbed the copper key. It hasn't opened yet? At the same time, Duan Lingtian shook his head and looked at the ceiling. However, he noticed that the ceiling did not move at all. Instead, the stone platform beneath his feet began to tremble. What's this? At the same time, Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed as he looked at the stone platform beneath his feet with a dumbfounded expression. At this moment, he noticed that an inscription formation had been activated on the stone platform beneath his feet. Not only that, but the inscription formation also released a strange energy that swept towards the long corridor that he came from. Whoosh! At the same time, Duan Lingtian felt the ground beneath his feet become empty. The stone platform flew out from the ground and rushed into the long corridor that he came from as soon as it left his feet. This is Chapter 993. The stone platform was not big. In just a blink of an eye, it was surrounded by thousands and thousands of wood shards. The wood shards kept rolling around before they finally transformed into a human shape and formed a brand new giant wooden man. What kind of inscription formation is that? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed when he saw this. He was shocked. He could clearly sense it when he extended his spiritual energy earlier. As the inscription formation on the stone platform released a strange energy, the thousands and thousands of wood shards that were piled up on the long corridor began to move restlessly. When the stone platform flew closer, the wood shards seemed to be summoned by something as they rushed toward the stone platform and formed a giant wooden man. This wooden man was formed by thousands and thousands of wood shards. Its entire body was uneven, but it could not hide the majestic aura that was emitted from its body. There's no origin stone in the stone platform. There's only a concept fragment. The wood shards came from the previous wooden men. They were tainted with origin energy from the mid-grade origin stones that were originally in the wooden men's bodies. But now, the sparse and extremely weak origin energy in these pieces of wood seems to be drawn into the stone platform by something. It's that inscription formation again. Duan Lingtian, who was puzzled, was shocked when he discovered something. The inscription formation on the strange stone platform actually emitted an extremely terrifying suction force that absorbed the traces of origin energy on the thousands upon thousands of pieces of wood. In just a short moment, the origin energy on the wood shards was completely absorbed by the stone platform. It seemed to have become the giant wooden man's heart as it continued to grow stronger. Boom! Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy that he extended out suddenly discovered the origin energy that was being absorbed by the stone platform. It trembled before it completely exploded. In just an instant, a milky white flame surged out of the giant wooden man that was formed by thousands and thousands of wood shards. It was as though it could burn everything. In the air, the heaven and earth energy stirred as the heaven and earth phenomenon formed. 400 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons clearly appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. To mobilize the heaven and earth energy and form such a heaven and earth phenomenon with just his origin energy, it's equivalent to the strength of a third-level void transformation martial artist, using just his origin energy. Seeing this, Duan Lingtian's pupils shrank slightly. As far as he knew, if it was only mid-grade origin stones, then no matter how many there were, the inscription formation formed from them would at most be able to mobilize the origin energy of a martial artist at the 7th level of the void interpretation stage. It was equivalent to the strength of 100 ancient horned dragons. Yet now, the giant wooden figure that did not have any origin stones in its body was able to exert origin energy that was comparable to a 3rd-level void transformation stage martial artist. This caused Duan Lingtian to feel astonished from the bottom of his heart. In his opinion, this was completely illogical. The origin energy in the giant wooden man's body came from the broken pieces of wood. The origin energy accumulated in the broken pieces of wood came from mid-grade origin stones. Logically speaking, even if all of the origin energy in the broken wood were to fuse together, it would still be impossible to display such a powerful strength. After all, the origin energy came from mid-grade origin stones. Mid-grade origin stones have a huge restriction. Logically speaking, it would be impossible for them to display such a powerful strength through an inscription formation. Duan Lingtian could not figure this out no matter how hard he thought about it. Barf barf. Duan Lingtian spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood again. The origin energy in his body was agitated and somewhat out of control. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, the sound of air exploding due to the compression of the airflow entered Duan Lingtian's ears. Along with it, there were gusts of wild wind that swept across the ground in all directions. Whoosh! At the same time, another ear-piercing sound of wind whistling was heard. It swept towards Duan Lingtian as though it would not stop until it killed Duan Lingtian. The gigantic fist appeared again. It was the gigantic wooden figure that attacked Duan Lingtian mercilessly. Bang! At the same time, Duan Lingtian's face changed. The quasi-royal grade spiritual sword appeared in his hand out of thin air. He slammed the body of the sword against the wall behind him, and the strength that he mobilized in a hurry swept out. In an instant, Duan Lingtian was pushed back by the rebounding force, and he barely dodged the gigantic wooden figure's punch. Boom! Naturally, most of them were eliminated on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level of Qingfeng Palace. The test on the 3rd level was undoubtedly much more difficult than the test on the 2nd level. In addition to having to pass a specific test, one would have to risk one's life to fight in the end. Only the person who remained would obtain the silver key and successfully advance to the next level. In a spacious hall on the 3rd level of Qingfeng Palace, 3 figures stood facing each other in a corner. The smell of gunpowder was extremely strong, as though they were ready to attack each other at any time. Among the 3 of them, there was a young woman with a beautiful appearance. The young woman in red had a face that could topple a country. She stood there like a delicate fire elf, attracting everyone's attention. Kill! Suddenly, one of the young men shouted. The origin energy on his body skyrocketed, and his concept followed like a shadow as it merged with the spirit weapon in his hand. He immediately pounced toward the red-clad woman and released the energy from the spirit weapon in his hand. In his opinion, including him, the red-clad woman who looked like she was in her early 20s was definitely the weakest among the 3 people present. She was the easiest target. In order to fight the last person without holding back, he decided to eliminate the red-clad woman first. The woman's appearance made him drool, but he was not in the mood to do so. I'm determined to get the silver key. The young man's eyes shone brightly, and his face was filled with confidence. At the same time, the heaven and earth energy stirred above his head and condensed into a heaven and earth phenomenon. A total of about 1,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons were formed. Whoosh! The other young man seemed to have discussed it with the former. When the former pounced toward the red-clad woman, he pounced as well. About 1,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons also appeared above his head and pounced toward the red-clad woman aggressively. Whoosh! Faced with the two people's attacks, the woman stood still on the spot. Her red dress fluttered. In this windless environment, the woman's red dress fluttered loudly due to the airwaves and strong wind caused by the air explosion caused by the two young men's attacks. Die! The two young men were from Izumo sect and North Nether sect respectively. The Izumo sect's disciple who attacked later looked at the red-clad woman with extreme ferocity and ruthlessness. Among the people from Izumo sect who entered Emperor Wu's secret treasure, only he and another person were left before they entered Qingfeng Palace. The two most outstanding young powerhouses in Izumo sect were killed by the same person. The murderer was none other than Duan Lingtian. A young powerhouse from a small third-rate force caused fear to rise from the bottom of his heart. Before the red-clad woman in front of him entered Qingfeng Palace, he had already discovered that she had a close relationship with Duan Lingtian. This was one of the reasons why he attacked her. The red-clad woman was none other than Feng Tianwu. Ever since Feng Tianwu separated from Duan Lingtian, she had gone all the way from the first level to the third level of Qingfeng Palace and passed the test. After passing the test, Emperor Wu's message clearly entered her ears. At this time, she found out that the third level of Qingfeng Palace required two people to sacrifice their lives in order to open the entrance to the fourth level of Qingfeng Palace. Faced with the attacks from the left and right, Feng Tianwu remained calm. Her expression would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her. Feng Tianwu still did not make any move until the two of them were close to her. Boom! However, a monstrous flame rose from Feng Tianwu's body. It caused the heaven and earth energy in the air to stir before it finally gathered to form a clear heaven and earth phenomenon. 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes meandered down. They were lifelike. S9th level advanced fire concept. Feng Tianwu glanced at the two bodies lying on the ground and muttered to herself. Her beautiful face was expressionless, and no emotions could be seen. If these two people fought with her, she would have to spend a lot of effort even if she could kill them in the end. However, when they saw her mobilizing the 9th level advanced fire concept, they did not have any intention to fight at all. They only cared about fleeing in a wretched manner, allowing her to chase after them and kill them easily. It could be said that the reason the two of them died so quickly was entirely because of their cowardice. Soon after, Feng Tianwu seemed to have noticed something and exclaimed softly. In the next moment she saw it. The blood that continued to flow out of the two corpses on the ground like a small stream seemed to have activated something, causing waves of inscription formation aura to rise out of thin air in the surroundings. Blood sacrifice. When she recalled the message from Qingfeng Emperor Wu, Feng Tianwu did not have to guess to know what had happened. Rumble. 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 Subsequently, loud noises resonated in Feng Tianwu's ears again. The sound came from above her head. At that moment, Feng Tianwu's attention was attracted. She lifted her head slightly and saw the ceiling above her head gradually moving and opening up a path to the fourth level of Qingfeng Palace to welcome her. Where's the silver key? Feng Tianwu did not get carried away by the pleasant surprise before her eyes. Her thoughts quickly shifted to the reward that Qingfeng Emperor Wu left on the third level of Qingfeng Palace. According to Qingfeng Emperor Wu, the reward for the third level was the silver key. She had no idea what the silver key was used for. Of course, although she did not know what the silver key was used for, she could faintly guess its significance. Otherwise, it would not have been placed on the third level of Qingfeng Palace by Qingfeng Emperor Wu as a reward for passing the test. However, now that the door to the fourth level of Qingfeng Palace had opened, the silver key reward for the third level of Qingfeng Palace had yet to appear. She could not help but feel anxious. Rumble. At that moment, another soft sound resonated in Feng Tianwu's ears again. Subsequently, she saw a green brick on the ground not far away. After being illuminated by the light from the fourth level of Qingfeng Palace, it suddenly trembled violently and rose slowly. Whoosh! Feng Tianwu lifted her hand and took the green brick. A quaint little box appeared before her eyes. Pa! Feng Tianwu picked up the small box and directly opened it. The thing within the small box was reflected in her eyes, causing her eyes to brighten, and a thick smile appeared on her face. Inside the box that she opened, there was a crescent-shaped key lying quietly. It looks exactly the same except for the color. At the same time, Feng Tianwu took out another crescent-shaped key. Chapter 996. The test on the 4th level of Qing Feng Palace is called the Bumpy Road. Only the person who passes through the bumpy road first will have a chance to obtain the golden key. As long as the person passes through the bumpy road, even if they don't obtain the golden key, they'll still have a chance to obtain the other reward I left behind. These were the original words left behind by Qing Feng Emperor Wu in the Polyphony formation. For this reason, what Duan Lingtian had to do now was to pass through the bumpy road as soon as possible and arrive at the other end to obtain the golden key and obtain the other reward. According to Qing Feng Emperor Wu's message, there will be people competing with me this time, just like when I was on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd levels of Qing Feng Palace. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, his hands began to move even faster as he moved at lightning speed. His fists and palms contained his entire body's strength as they swept out and opened up a path in front of him. He swept away all the obstacles without holding back. When Duan Lingtian made his move, other than triggering a series of ear-piercing wind-whistling sound, it was also accompanied by a series of deafening thunderclaps. Boom! 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 The sound of air explosions continued to rise and fall, setting off a series of airwaves that swept out in all directions, triggering gusts of wind that swept out in all directions. The wind rose and the punch was thrown out. Boom! Duan Lingtian's punch was like a landslide. Although the turbulent waves that were charging at him contained the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons, they were still pushed back by his punch, causing a series of loud noises to ring out. The turbulent waves, which were the water energy transformed from the water concept through the inscription formation, were pushed back by Duan Lingtian's punch. At the same time, his entire body moved and flew out rapidly. Whirlwind. Moments later, Duan Lingtian passed through the turbulent waves and continued to fly to the other end of the long corridor. Whoosh! This time he was met with a raging and soaring flame. When the flame shrouded Duan Lingtian, it was like a giant flame beast that opened its bloody mouth and wanted to swallow Duan Lingtian into its stomach. In the face of the flame that covered the sky and covered the earth, Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold. He threw out another punch and temporarily suppressed the flame that covered the sky so it would not be able to reignite in a short period of time. Whoosh! The purple figure that was as fast as lightning charged forward again, and faced with the earth energy that was rolling towards him. When the earth energy shrouded Duan Lingtian, it seemed to have merged perfectly with the earth. There was no longer any distinction between him and the earth. Not. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's sharp spiritual energy immediately noticed this subtle change. Horror dawned on his face immediately. Not only can the 9th level earth concept fragments within the inscription formation condense the energy of the earth, they can even communicate with the earth and rely on the energy of the earth. While he was shocked, Duan Lingtian could clearly see the earth energy that was surging towards him. When the earth energy shrouded him, the heaven and earth energy in the air stirred and gathered to form the heaven and earth phenomenon. A total of 1,500 ancient horned dragons' strength appeared in a menacing manner. It was as though it wanted to completely crush him. Humph! Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold. A quasi-royal grade spirit sword appeared in his hand out of thin air. He swung it out and welcomed the attack. Whoosh! Wherever the short-lived sword ray passed, the earth energy was split into half. Duan Lingtian seized this opportunity to fly out and pass through the earth energy. Whirlwind. Duan Lingtian continued on his way. When he encountered the earth energy, he would use the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand to open a path. As for other times, it was more straightforward to use his fists and palms. After all, not all nature energy was like the earth energy. As long as he slashed it into half, he could easily open a path. For example, water and fire would split apart wherever the sword ray passed. However, the gap between the cracks could not allow Duan Lingtian to pass through. This was because no matter if it was water or fire, They would merge together again in an instant when they were slashed apart by the sword ray. On the other hand, slashing apart the earth energy was like slashing apart a thick and heavy rock. With a single slash of the sword, it would split into half and open a path. Boom! 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 Duan Lingtian charged all the way to the other end of the long corridor. Everywhere he passed, his fist and palm prints filled the air. At the same time, it set off a series of thunderous explosions. Whoosh! 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 When he encountered the earth energy, Duan Lingtian immediately used his quasi-royal grade spiritual sword to open a path. Wherever the sword ray pointed, the earth energy would be split into half. Just a little more. Duan Lingtian, who was charging all the way, could clearly see the end of the long corridor. As long as he arrived there, he would be considered to have passed the bumpy road and passed the test of the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace. He would then be able to obtain the golden key. With my current speed, the people who are competing with me should not be as good as me. Duan Lingtian was confident in his strength. Finally, with his powerful strength, Duan Lingtian successfully passed the bumpy road and passed the test of the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace. He appeared at the end of the long corridor. Whoosh! After Duan Lingtian passed through the long corridor, he came to a halt. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, making him look elegant. Almost at the same time when Duan Lingtian came to a halt, 2 swift whistling sounds resonated in the air. 2 figures stood in the distance and revealed themselves. Huh! Duan Lingtian was surprised that someone could appear at the same time as him. He could not help but stare at them. With just a glance, he recognized both of them. Su Qing and Zhou Yu. Both of them were young powerhouses from second-rate forces in the northern desert. Su Qing, the strongest person among the younger generation in North Nether sect. Zhou Yu, the strongest person among the younger generation in Anika sect. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed when he recognized both of them. I didn't expect to meet them here. I thought I'd have to go to the 5th level to meet them. Whether it was Su Qing or Zhou Yu, they might not be as good as him if they did not use their spirit weapons. He instantly discovered the other 5 long corridors. There are a total of 6 corridors on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, including the one I came from. In other words, other than me, Su Qing, and Zhou Yu, there are 3 other people who have arrived at the 4th level? Chapter 997. Of course. If Tian Wu takes the risk to cast the fire profundity, she can also crush the earth energy that contains the strength of 1,500 ancient horned dragons. After all, even the lowest level of the 1st level fire profundity would be equivalent to the strength of 2,000 ancient horned dragons once it's unleashed. Soon after, Duan Lingtian thought of Feng Tianwu. If Feng Tianwu completely ignored the backlash from the fire spirit body's energy in her body, she could take the risk to cast the 1st level fire profundity. It was equivalent to the strength of 2,000 ancient horned dragons. However, the price she had to pay was extremely high. She might explode and die because of that. The might of the fire spirit body that was hidden in her body was not a joke. Including Su Qing and Zhou Yu, if the 5 young powerhouses who came to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace have the same experience as me, based on the number of young powerhouses from various forces who entered Qingfeng Palace, this should be the only place on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace that leads to the 5th level. After all, the 5th level is the last level of Qingfeng Palace. If I'm not mistaken, Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body should be on the 5th level. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he thought of this. His eyes were filled with anticipation and desire. He was looking forward to finding Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body. He was eager to obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Emperor Wu's body, especially the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment. He wanted to obtain it even in his dreams. Just as Duan Lingtian was thinking about this, Su Qing and Zhou Yu looked at each other in unison. It was as though they had discussed this beforehand. They did not move for a long time. Both of them could be considered as old rivals. They were not strangers to each other. Now that both of them appeared on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace together, even they were taken aback. Su Qing, Zuoyu narrowed his eyes and said slowly. His eyes were filled with battle intent. It was as though he could not wait to fight 300 rounds with Su Qing to determine the winner. In his opinion, as long as he defeated Su Qing, he would become the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in the northern desert. There was no need for him to be on par with Su Qing. At this moment, Zuoyu had completely forgotten about Duan Lingtian. Zuoyu. As a sword cultivator, Su Qing was much calmer than Zuoyu. Faced with Zuoyu's intense battle intent, he didn't comment at all and responded casually. Zuoyu's expression changed when he saw the casual look on Su Qing's face. Just as he was about to flare up, a voice was transmitted into his ears, causing him to feel as though he was struck by lightning. He completely suppressed the rage in his heart. Zuoyu, don't you think we should wait until after we kill the Duan Lingtian? What entered Zuoyu's ears was precisely Su Qing's voice transmission. Right now, neither of us can be sure if he was holding back the strength he displayed back then. But regardless of whether he was holding back or not, we shouldn't leave him until the end. Once we make the first move, the final outcome will definitely be a lose-lose situation. Could it be that you want to wait for him to take advantage of the situation? I suggest that we join forces and kill him first. When Su Qing reached the end of his voice transmission, a hint of seriousness could be heard in his voice. I have a feeling that this Duan Lingtian isn't as simple as he seems. I feel extremely uneasy knowing that he's still alive. After Su Qing's reminder, Zuoyu could not help but jolt back to his senses. He finally remembered the existence of the Duan Lingtian. Earlier, he had almost forgotten about the Duan Lingtian. We can join forces. However, the profundity fragment in his body belongs to me. Zuoyu looked at Su Qing and raised the price. However, Su Qing could not help but sneer when he heard his words. Zuoyu, have you forgotten the most important thing? Today, you and I will fight here, and we will definitely decide the victor. In the end, one of us will definitely be killed by the other party. Only then will the person who survives obtain the golden key, and another reward left behind by the Qingfeng Emperor Wu on the 4th level. Only then will he be able to ascend to the 5th level, and obtain the 3 profundity fragments in the body of the Qingfeng Emperor Wu. Since one of us will die in the end, don't you think your request is a little superfluous? Su Qing finished his sentence in one breath. Zuoyu could not help but be stunned by Su Qing's words. After a while, he regained his senses and completely agreed with Su Qing's words. If that's the case, let's join forces and kill the Duan Lingtian first. Zuoyu took a deep breath as he stared coldly at the purple-clad young man standing not far away. When he saw the Duan Lingtian looking left and right as though he was looking for something, he could not help but sneer. A mocking smile appeared on his face as he said fearlessly, Duan Lingtian, take a few more glances. From today onwards, you're destined not to see anything in this world. When Zuoyu's words entered Duan Lingtian's ears, it caused Duan Lingtian's face to turn grave immediately. Zuoyu. When Duan Lingtian looked at Zuoyu, he could clearly sense Su Qing's cold gaze. It was a gaze as cold as a sword that was about to devour a person. Are they really joining forces? His heart could not help but skip a beat. Although he was mentally prepared, he could not help but feel his heart clench when the moment came. His face turned grave, and a hint of dread flashed in his eyes. Ha ha ha. Duan Lingtian, I don't care if you held back when you killed Lei Zhong earlier. Today Su Qing and I will join forces. You'll definitely die. When Zuoyu saw the dread in Duan Lingtian's eyes, he could not help but laugh maniacally. His laughter was wanton and unrestrained. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian must have a certain understanding of his and Su Qing's strength. However, when Duan Lingtian heard that Zuoyu wanted to join forces with Su Qing, a hint of dread could be seen in his eyes. It was obvious he was not confident he could deal with Zuoyu and Su Qing. Zuoyu, I realize, you really have a lot of nonsense to say, Su Qing said coldly. His gaze was as cold as his voice when it landed on Duan Lingtian. You better not be careless before you kill this Duan Lingtian. Be careful of capsizing in the gutter. Su Qing. When Duan Lingtian heard that Su Qing wanted to kill him, his expression turned ugly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Su Qing was in cahoots with Zuoyu. Although he was unwilling to admit it, he had no choice but to do so. At this moment, Su Qing and Zui Yu joining forces was undoubtedly the best way to deal with him. Chapter 998. Boom! The full moon saber in Zui Yu's hand was surrounded by a saber ray that was completely formed by green wind. It was so overwhelming that the energy contained in Duan Lingtian's sword trembled. Boom! 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 The strength of over 1,620 ancient horned dragons in the saber ray swept out again and again. It was like the waves behind overtaking the waves before it, suppressing the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons in Duan Lingtian's sword. As the sound of air exploding reverberated in the air waves and gales swept out in all directions and raged. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian and his sword were pushed back a few steps by Zui Yu's saber. The vital energy and blood in his body were in turmoil, and his face was pale. If it was any other time, Duan Lingtian might be able to slightly block Zui Yu's saber that was only over 20 ancient horned dragons stronger than him. However, Zui Yu had made the first move and gained the upper hand. It was difficult for him to block it. With the strength of over 20 ancient horned dragons stronger than him, Zui Yu who made the first move easily suppressed him. Unfortunately, the earth formation on the bumpy paths on the 5th level of Qing Feng Palace has interfered with me. I can't use the earth concept to borrow the earth energy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in such a sorry state. The earth formation was the inscription formation that extended the earth energy on the bumpy paths to stop Duan Lingtian from advancing. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and felt his organs trembling. He stared at Zui Yu with a grave expression on his face. He did not continue to chase after Zui Yu. Haha, Duan Lingtian, it seems like my previous guess was right. The strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons is your limit. When Duan Lingtian was looking at Zui Yu was also looking at Duan Lingtian. He laughed out loud, his eyes were filled with contempt. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, an ear-piercing sword-whistling sound rang out, and specks of swordlight approached from afar, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they fell upon Duan Lingtian, as if it was raining swords. Along with the rain of swords that filled the sky, there was also a figure that looked like green lightning. The heaven and earth phenomenon above the green figure's head was exactly the same as the heaven and earth phenomenon above Zui Yu's head. There were more than 1,620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. 4th level void transformation stage. 4th level sword concept. A 1st grade spirit sword. Su Qing. Duan Lingtian fixed his gaze on the green figure behind the rain of swords when he saw the rain of swords falling toward him. He shook his quasi-royal grade spirit sword and stabbed it forward. 9 dragons radiant flash. As Duan Lingtian drew his sword, 3 divine dragons that were formed from the fusion of origin energy and 4 types of concepts whizzed out at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! 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 Almost at the same time when the 3 divine dragons charged out, 6 extremely cold rays shot out from their 3 pairs of eyes. Their target was Su Qing, the green figure in the distance. What a powerful sword skill! The 6 extremely cold rays were so fast that Su Qing, who thought he could easily kill Duan Lingtian, narrowed his eyes. Subsequently, his eyes turned cold, and he withdrew the grade 1 spirit sword in his hand at lightning speed. Instantly, the rain of swords that covered the sky that descended towards Duan Lingtian vanished completely, along with Su Qing withdrawing his hand. Whoosh! 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 When Su Qing withdrew his sword, he shook it abruptly, and sword flowers formed in front of him, forming a layer of dense sword net. Almost at the same time when the sword net was formed. Clang! 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 The 6 extremely cold rays landed on the sword net one by one, creating a crisp sound and setting off waves of airwaves that swept in all directions. However, they did not penetrate the sword net. They were all blocked. What a fast sword! Duan Lingtian's face darkened. He did not expect Su Qing's sword to be so fast. Under such circumstances, he was still able to form a layer of dense sword net in front of him in time. Duan Lingtian could see that the sword net that Su Qing formed was a defensive martial skill. It was a heaven-ranked defensive martial skill. Zuoyu, this Duanling Tian is very dangerous. Let's join forces and kill him as soon as possible. Su Qing did not feel good when he blocked the 6 extremely cold rays. He only felt his internal organs trembling, and his qi and blood were surging. His eyes flashed coldly as he suddenly shouted, "Haha! Su Qing, it seems like you've suffered quite a bit as well." Zuoyu seemed to have noticed something and laughed. However, the smile on his face quickly disappeared. Duanlington, today, even the heavens won't be able to save you. Zuoyu stared coldly at Duanling Tian as though he was looking at a dead man. As soon as his words left his mouth, Zuoyu's body swept out like the wind toward Duanling Tian. The full moon saber in his hand left a saber shadow in the air before it disappeared again. Shadow Aurora Saber. This time Zuoyu used the same trick again. He cast the strongest saber martial skill that he had mastered in an attempt to kill Duanling Tian. Whoosh! Zuoyu's saber swept out toward Duanling Tian like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. He wanted to reap Duanling Tian's life. Whoosh! At the same time, Su Qing made his move as well. He charged out side by side with Zuoyu. The sword in his hand once again created a rain of swords that covered the sky and covered the earth as it charged toward Duanling Tian. Between the two of them, one wanted to slash Duanling Tian in half while the other wanted to pierce through Duanling Tian's heart with 10,000 swords. In the sky, more than 3,200 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons charged toward Duanling Tian. If such a heaven and earth phenomenon belonged to only one person, Duanling Tian would definitely die. However, even if the heaven and earth phenomenon belonged to 2 people, it was still a pressure to Duanling Tian, who was injured. It was so oppressive that he could barely breathe. Split and combine formation. Faced with the merciless attacks from the 2 people, Duanling Tian's eyes were cold. Origin energy merged into the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand and activated the inscription formation in it. The inscription formation in the quasi-royal grade spirit sword was the split and combine inscription formation. Duanling Tian called it the split and combine formation. Once it was activated, it would split into 9 and combine into 1. At that moment, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duanling Tian's hand split into 9. Subsequently, his spiritual energy extended out and shrouded the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords, causing them to hover in the air and revolve around his body. Su Qing and Zuoyu were shocked when they saw the swords in Duanling Tian's hand split into 9 and revolved around him. Although they were shocked, their attacks did not slow down at all. They continued to attack Duanling Tian mercilessly. 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique. Faced with Su Qing and Zuoyu's attacks, Duanling Tian's heart jolted. He was ready to perform the green sword skill he obtained from the Martial Monarch's treasure to control the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords to fight. As he exerted all his spiritual energy, 4 of the quasi-royal grade spirit swords flew out under his control. They emitted a sharp sword ray as they flew toward Su Qing and Zuoyu. Whoosh! 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 Each of the 4 quasi-royal grade spirit swords that flew toward Su Qing and Zuoyu contained a similar amount of energy. It was equivalent to 4 Duanling Tian attacking at the same time. Unfortunately, due to the fact that Duanling Tian was injured, the energy contained in each of the quasi-royal grade spirit swords was only equivalent to 1,400 ancient horned dragons. It was far from his prime. Clang! 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 As the vast energy collided with each other, the sound of air exploding reverberated in the air. At the same time, for ear-piercing sounds of metal colliding resonated in the air and entered Duanling Tian's ears clearly like thunder. A wry smile crept up on the corner of Duanling Tian's mouth when he saw Su Qing and Zuoyu knocking away the 4 quasi-royal grade spirit swords that flew out one after another. If only I had performed the 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique earlier. Duanling Tian did not expect this at all. With his current spiritual energy, he could actually control 4 swords at the same time when he performed the 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique. Once he attacked, the power was extraordinary. It was equivalent to 4 of him attacking at the same time. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. A small mistake caused Duanling Tian to be completely in a predicament. He was exposed to Su Qing and Zuoyu's attacks. Separate and combined formation. In a hurry, Duan Lingtian only managed to grab one of the quasi-royal grade spirit swords that was hovering in the air beside him, and merged the other 8 quasi-royal grade spirit swords back into one. Sword drawing technique. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword that had merged back into one swiftly attacked. It was as though it had transformed into a sword ray that was like a storm as it welcomed Su Qing and Zuoyu's attacks. Su Qing and Zuoyu were shocked when they saw Duan Lingtian's sword had transformed into 9 swords. In the beginning, they thought the other 9 swords that had appeared were fake. It was only when 4 of the swords soared through the air and charged at them. Each of the swords contained the strength of over 1,400 ancient horned dragons that they realized each of the swords was real. At this moment, they could not help but be shocked again. At this moment, before they could calm down, they saw Duan Lingtian had merged the 9 swords back into one. It caused their emotions to be in turmoil again. This also caused their attacks to subconsciously weaken a little. Although it was weakened, it was still not something that Duan Lingtian, who was injured, could withstand. Whoosh! Whoosh! When the saber and sword swept over and collided with the quasi-royal great spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand, an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing resonated in the air. At the same time, Duan Lingtian was blasted away again along with his sword. Duan Lingtian, who was blasted away like an arrow that was shot out of the bow, tried his best to mobilize his origin energy to decelerate. However, the effect was not obvious. In the end, Duan Lingtian's body slammed hard against the wall. His internal organs were shaken and his vital energy and blood were in turmoil. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Smack! Congested blood splattered on the ground, splashing out blood flowers like dazzling red roses. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally had the opportunity to take out a life recovery pill that he had refined and consumed it. Just as Duan Lingtian was rapidly digesting the medicinal efficacy to heal his injuries while looking at Su Qing and Zuoyu, who were charging at him with dread, he noticed the floor beneath him was trembling. Inscription formation. Duan Lingtian's sharp spiritual energy soon discovered that he had unintentionally activated another inscription formation. No, to be exact, there were 2. Chapter 999. When Duan Lingtian's attention was attracted by the sound of the explosion, he saw a piece of the floor being blasted away by a hidden force. Whoosh! Subsequently, a stone platform rose rapidly. There was an exquisite little box on top of the stone platform. The little box was exactly the same as the one Duan Lingtian saw on the 3rd floor of Qingfeng Palace. However, the little box on the 3rd floor of Qingfeng Palace contained the silver key. Could the thing in this little box be the golden key? Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat and could not help but guess. When Duan Lingtian's attention was attracted by the little box, Su Qing and Zuoyu, who were charging at Duan Lingtian fiercely, were also attracted by the little box. They stopped in their tracks when they were charging at Duan Lingtian. When they looked at the little box, their eyes were filled with burning desire. Whoosh! Soon after, Zuoyu moved and charged toward the stone platform where the little box was. He had completely forgotten about Duan Lingtian. Zuoyu! Su Qing's expression changed, and he could not help but shout in anger. He did not expect Zuoyu to be so shameless. He had said that he would kill Duan Lingtian first before fighting him to the death. In the end, he was the one who snatched the little box that seemed to contain the golden key. Whoosh! Instantly, Su Qing flashed out as well, and he seemed to have transformed into a sharp sword that swiftly flashed out as he moved like a bolt of lightning to obstruct Zuoyu, who wanted to take the small box. Humph! Zuoyu's face darkened and he snorted coldly when he saw Su Qing trying to snatch the little box that seemed to contain the golden key. Subsequently, he made his move without any hesitation and fought with Su Qing. Both of them were old rivals, and their strength was on par with each other. They were on par with each other. However, they still fought with all their might for the little box. As for Duan Lingtian, they seemed to have forgotten about him. Perhaps in their opinion, Duan Lingtian was no longer a threat. As long as any of them survived, they could easily kill him. On the other side, when Duan Lingtian saw that Zuoyu was attracted by the small box that seemed to contain the golden key and flew towards it, he knew that his life was not in danger for the time being. For the time being, He did not show much interest in the small box that seemed to contain the golden key. Of course, this didn't mean that he wasn't interested in it. Now, even if he was really interested in it, he had no way of snatching it away from him. Soon, Duan Lingtian shifted his gaze to the ground below him. At this moment, he was lifted into the air by the slowly rising floor. Duan Lingtian's figure flashed and descended onto the floor. With just a glance, he saw a green vine appear under the floor, and the floor beneath him was propped up by the green vine. Although there was only one green vine in front of him, it was extremely thick, as thick as an adult's thigh. That is, however, what really attracted Duan Lingtian was not the green vine, but the purple-red fruit that was hanging on the green vine. The fruit was shining with a faint purple light. Bauhinia fruit? Duan Lingtian searched through Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, and quickly recognized the fruit before him as a spirit fruit. Moreover, it was a spirit fruit that was used by void transformation martial artists. The Bauhinia fruit was a spirit fruit that was used by void transformation martial artists. Among the spirit fruits in Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, the Bauhinia fruit could be considered as one of the best spirit fruits used by void transformation martial artists. After a few more hits, Duan Lingtian felt a soft pop sound coming from his body. The bottleneck leading to the 4th level void transformation was broken. His origin energy swept out and underwent an earth-shattering change. 4th level void transformation. The origin energy that had transformed did not stop because of this. Under the influence of the overbearing medicinal efficacy of the rebirth pill and Bauhinia pill, its speed did not slow down at all. It continued to circulate one cycle after another, according to the roving dragon form's mental cultivation method. Duan Lingtian's cultivation base rose at an extremely terrifying speed. However, Duan Lingtian's thoughts were not on the elevation of his cultivation base. He could clearly feel that his wind concept had changed, but it was not a change that occurred after a breakthrough. Wind concept doesn't seem to have a breakthrough. It's just that I feel like there's another energy in it. A power that's ready to burst out at any time. What's that? Out of curiosity, Duan Lingtian tried to communicate with the energy that was born in the wind concept. Soon after, he felt a scorching aura being transmitted to him. Subsequently, a violent and scorching energy soared and enveloped his entire body. However, this fiery red energy did not cause any harm to him. Fire. Fire concept. Duan Lingtian opened his eyes and stared blankly at the energy that was born from the wind concept that surrounded his body. To be more precise, it was the fire concept. Wait, the level of this fire concept seems to be the same as the wind concept? After probing for a while, Duan Lingtian discovered a shocking fact. The fire concept that was born from the 3rd level advanced wind concept that he comprehended was actually the same as the wind concept. It was also at the 3rd level void transformation concept. In other words, the fire concept that he had just comprehended was directly at the 3rd level advanced fire concept. Isn't the roving dragon form, the 8th form of the 9 Dragons War sovereign technique, too abnormal? Not only did it allow me to nurture the fire concept with the wind concept, but it's even nurtured such a high-level fire concept. Moreover, there seems to be some kind of connection between the fire concept and the wind concept. It's as if the fire concept would have a breakthrough after the wind concept has a breakthrough. When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian was shocked. If it's really like this, I don't have to comprehend another fire concept at all. As long as the wind concept improves, the fire concept will improve as well. Perhaps by the time I comprehend the wind profundity, the fire concept will also evolve into the fire profundity. When he thought of this, Duan Lingtian's heartbeat quickened again. It was as though it was going to jump out of his chest. What's that? The commotion at Duan Lingtian's side finally attracted Su Qing and Zhou Yu's attention. Both of them clashed once again and retreated quickly. They were not in a hurry to attack each other again. Both of them had a tacit understanding as they looked at the other side. Over there, a thick green vine that propped up the floor appeared clearly in front of their eyes. With their eyesight, they could clearly see a new gap on the green vine with just a glance. It was as though someone had plucked something from it. Spirit fruit. Both of them looked at each other and saw the realization in each other's eyes. Both of their expressions changed at the same time. The spirit fruit was plucked by Duan Lingtian? Don't tell me the spirit fruit is the other reward that Emperor Wu Qingfeng left on the 5th level? Both of them were shocked. They clearly remembered the message that Emperor Wu Qingfeng left behind. The message stated that there was another reward other than the golden key on the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. As for what the other reward was, Emperor Wu Qingfeng did not say clearly in his message. Due to this reason, they did not pay much attention to the reward from the beginning. Chapter 1000. Damn it! The spirit fruit was taken by Duan Lingtian first. I don't think he has the time to consume it yet, right? Zhuiyu's expression was grave, and his body was trembling in anger. Whoosh! Compared to him, Su Qing was much more straightforward. He immediately flew out like a sword and charged toward Duan Lingtian. At the same time, he shouted coldly, "Duan Lingtian, hand over the spirit fruit." At this moment, whether it was Zhuiyu or Su Qing, they were not surprised by the flame that rose from Duan Lingtian's body. It was also the fire concept. In fact, Duan Lingtian did not use the fire concept when he attacked them earlier. Their attention was completely focused on the spirit fruit that Duan Lingtian had plucked from the green vine. In their opinion, since the spirit fruit was the reward for the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, it must not be an ordinary spirit fruit. When Zhuiyu saw Su Qing had arrived at Duan Lingtian's side and was about to kill Duan Lingtian and take the spirit fruit away with him, this Su Qing. Damn it! Horror dawned on Zhuiyu's face. The origin energy on his body surged, and the wind concept followed him like a shadow. With just a thought, he was ready to chase after Su Qing. However, the moment he took a step forward, he suddenly froze on the spot. It was as though something unexpected had happened. Chow! How's this possible? Zhuiyu, who had stopped moving, shuddered for no reason. His eyes stared into the distance, filled with endless fear. It was fear that came from the bottom of his heart. At this moment it was as though he had seen something that he could not believe. In the distance, Duan Lingtian had a calm expression on his face as he faced the sword that contained the strength of over 1,620 ancient horned dragons, and Su Qing, who wanted to kill him as soon as he made his move. However, the depth of his eyes was filled with extreme coldness. "You're seeking death." Unknowingly, a sneer appeared on the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Even though his body was still heavily injured, he was still able to fight back. However, he knew that even if his current injuries were even more serious, it would still be effortless for him to kill Su Qing. Facing Su Qing's sword, Duan Lingtian's eyes turned completely cold. 9 dragons radiant flash. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that appeared out of thin air in his hand suddenly flashed out. His target was Su Qing, who was charging at him menacingly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Almost at the same time that Duan Lingtian drew his sword, 3 earth-yellow divine dragons surrounded by red flames, green gales, purple lightning, and fierce sword intent appeared out of thin air and pounced towards Su Qing. At the same time that the 3 divine dragons pounced, the green astral wind pierced into the red flames, causing the flames to suddenly soar. The fire was fueled by the wind. At the same time, the speed of the 3 divine dragons increased. Their 3 pairs of eyes flashed, and 6 flashes of extreme light shot out, producing a series of short-lived piercing howls. In front of Su Qing's eyes, the 3 rays of light that shot out from the yellow dragon's eyes disappeared the moment they appeared. *T. Su Qing's expression changed drastically at once. Unfortunately, this was destined to be the last expression he would show in his life. At the moment when Su Qing's expression changed, a hideous bloody hole appeared in each of his 6 vital points, including the space between his brows, throat, and chest. 6 blood arrows shot out and landed on the ground. Blood splattered as though they had transformed into dazzling red roses. Whoosh! 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 After the 6 rays of extreme light pierced through 6 vital points on Su Qing's body and killed him, they continued to fly out rapidly and crashed into the wall on the side of the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace. One must admit that the wall on the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace was really sturdy. Even if Duanling Tian executed the 9 dragons' radiant flash with his current strength after breaking through and swiftly shot out 6 extreme flashes, he was unable to leave even the slightest trace of a mark on it. Boom! Finally, Su Qing's body fell into a pool of blood. He no longer made a sound. The strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in North Nether Sect was dead. How's this possible? No. Impossible. This is impossible. The scene stuns Wu Yu, who was about to fight with Su Qing for the spirit fruit in Duanling Tian's hand. When Wu Yu took a step forward, he happened to witness the scene in front of him. He was so shocked that his legs felt as though they were filled with lead. He could no longer move. What a powerful energy! The eyes of the injured Duanling Tian lit up immediately after he killed Su Qing. Whoosh! At the same time, the heaven and earth energy above Duanling Tian's head stirred and gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. A total of more than 2,000 ancient horned dragons silhouettes appeared. This was because Duanling Tian was injured. Otherwise, the number of ancient horned dragon silhouettes that appeared in the heaven and earth phenomenon would definitely be more than this. However, even if it was just a small number, it still made Wu Yu, who was standing in the distance, in a daze. Horror filled his eyes. Run! 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 At this moment, this was the only thought left in Wu Yu's mind. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, Wu Yu moved like a bolt of lightning and dashed toward the corridor furthest away from Duanling Tian. He wanted to escape from there. That corridor was also where the bumpy road test that he had gone through when he came here was located. Trying to escape? Duanling Tian noticed Wu Yu's movement immediately. At this moment, a smirk crept up the corner of his mouth. Wu Yu had been coveting the profundity fragment in his hand since the first time they met. If Wu Yu was not worried about Su Qing and Lei Zhong in the beginning, he might have already attacked him when they first met. In addition to the fact that Wu Yu wanted to kill him earlier, it was even more impossible for him to let Wu Yu go. As Duanling Tian's eyes turned cold, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand shook as he planned to perform the 9 dragons' radiant flash again. In his opinion, with his current ability, if he performed the 9 dragons' radiant flash, he would be able to kill Wu Yu with the 6 ultimate flashes before he could escape. However, just as he was about to make his move, an unexpected accident happened. Boom! 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 Duanling Tian shook the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand. Just as he was about to make his move, a wave of turbulence came from his internal organs. Horror dawned on his face before it turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. In the end, he sensed the aura of an inscription formation in a corner. This inscription formation, through the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, Duanling Tian easily knew the function of the inscription formation in the corner. It was a one-way inscription formation. Usually, it would only appear at the entrance and exit of certain special places. One could only exit but not enter, and one could only enter but not exit. There's a path here as well? Duanling Tian took a step forward and activated the inscription formation. It transformed into a faint light shield that covered the large floor in the corner. Rumble! Rumble! Oh! Chapter 1001. Wu Yu must have left from here. If I chase after him, it'll be difficult for me to come back. Duanling Tian looked at the entrance of the stone staircase that was covered by a faint light shield. His expression was grave. The light shield in front of him was formed by a special inscription formation. No matter who it was, as long as they passed through it, their aura would be remembered by it and they would not be able to pass through it again. Since this inscription formation was created by a powerhouse like Emperor Wu, only a powerhouse like Emperor Wu could destroy it by force. Otherwise, they would have to obey its rules. If Duanling Tian passed through the light shield formed by the inscription formation and entered the entrance of the stone staircase, he would not be able to catch up with Wu Yu. He might not even be able to catch up with Wu Yu. Even if he managed to catch up, he might not be able to return to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, let alone go to the 5th level to look for Martial Emperor Qingfeng's body, and obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Martial Emperor Qingfeng's body. According to Duanling Tian's deduction, Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body should be on the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace. I might not be able to come back if I chase after him. I might not be able to catch up with Zuoyu and kill him. If I don't chase after him, Zuoyu will definitely be able to leave Emperor Wu's secret treasure alive. Duan Lingtian's expression turned grave as he muttered to himself. Once Zuoyu leaves Emperor Wu's secret treasure, the three major second-rate forces, Enika sect, Izumo sect, and North Nether sect will definitely know that I killed Su Qing, Lei Zhong and Lei Jun. Su Qing is the strongest person among the younger generation in North Nether sect. He's also the direct disciple of the sect leader of North Nether sect. If the North Nether sect finds out that I killed him, they'll definitely not let me go. As for Lei Zhong and Lei Jun, they're the two most outstanding young disciples in Izumo sect. Lei Zhong is the direct disciple of a martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect, while Lei Jun is the direct disciple of the sect leader of North Nether sect. It's inevitable that Izumo sect and I are like fire and water. Perhaps I didn't directly offend the Enika sect, but once the people from the Enika sect find out that my only son is on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace and might be able to ascend to the 5th level to obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Emperor Wu's body, they won't let me go either. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile bitterly. There was no doubt that the 3 second-rate forces in the northern desert would target him because of Zuoyu's departure. At that time, not only would he have to face a group of powerhouses at the peak of the void from the 3 great second-rate forces, but he would also have to face 3 martial monarch powerhouses from the 3 great second-rate forces. After all, each of the 3 great second-rate forces had at least 1 martial monarch powerhouse. For a moment, Duan Lingtian felt great pressure. Should we give chase and take a gamble? Perhaps I can catch up to Zuoyu. However, if I do that, I might not be able to catch up to him. If that's the case, not only will I have to give up the 3 profundity fragments in Emperor Wu's body, but the 3 great second-rate forces will also target me. The thoughts in Duan Lingtian's mind changed rapidly. In the end, he clenched his teeth and made up his mind. Forget it. Provoking 3 second-rate forces or provoking 1 second-rate force doesn't make much of a difference to me. I'll just deal with whatever comes my way. Before he entered Qingfeng Palace, he had already admitted that he had killed Lei Jun, the direct disciple of the sect leader of Izumo sect. Then, he had also killed Lei Zhong, the strongest person among the younger generation in Izumo sect. From that moment on, he had completely offended Izumo sect, unless he could kill all the witnesses at that time. Otherwise, Izumo sect would find out that he had killed Lei Zhong and Lei Jun sooner or later. I'm not even afraid of Izumo sect. Why would I, Duan Lingtian, be afraid of North Nether sect and Enika sect, who are equally as famous as Izumo sect? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he thought of this. For a moment, a strong and fearless confidence radiated from his body. Since he had thought it through, Duan Lingtian no longer thought about Zuoyu's escape. So what if it's the 3 great second-rate forces? I, Duan Lingtian, am not afraid of them. Duan Lingtian, who was full of confidence, turned around and walked toward the bumpy road. After passing through the bumpy road easily, he once again entered the central area of the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace. A body lay quietly in the central area of the 4th level. It was Su Qing's body. Not far from Su Qing's body, a green vine extended from the ground and lifted up a piece of the floor. On the other side, a stone platform stood where the floor was lifted up. There was an exquisite little box on it. It was the box that seemed to contain the golden key. You've saved my life too. Duan Lingtian moved and disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the stone platform where the little box was placed. At the same time, he reached out and picked up the little box. Pa! As Duan Lingtian opened the little box, a golden crescent-shaped key appeared before his eyes. This golden key was exactly the same as the silver key and the copper key in his hand. The only difference was the color. I've finally gathered all 3 keys. Duan Lingtian's heart moved as he took out the other 2 keys and stacked the 3 keys together. When the gold, silver and copper crescent-shaped keys were stacked together, Duan Lingtian could clearly sense the aura of the inscription formation. It came from the 3 keys. There's an inscription formation on these 3 keys? The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched slightly. When the 3 keys were stacked together, he realized he had combined and activated the inscription formation on the 3 keys. Rumble! Rumble! Rumble. Subsequently, a series of loud noises came from the top of Duan Lingtian's head and attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. Duan Lingtian lifted his head and saw it clearly. The ceiling above the central area of the 4th level was slowly moving and opening the door to the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace for him. Not only that, boom! Under Duan Lingtian's gaze, after the door to the 5th level opened, a huge box fell and landed not far away from him. It was a box that was completely black and looked extremely ordinary. However, it gave Duan Lingtian an extraordinary feeling. This is ink steel. When Duan Lingtian saw the box, his eyes could not help but narrow as he said in shock, "Isn't this too exaggerated? The entire box is made of ink steel? Extravagant. This is too extravagant." Ink steel was a refining material that Duan Lingtian learned about from the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory. If it was not for the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, he would not have been able to recognize ink steel. Ink steel was a refining material that could be used to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons, or even royal grade spirit weapons. It was extremely tough. If a grade 1 weapon craftsman were to refine it, he would need to burn it with a grade 1 weapon flame for a month before the ink steel would show any signs of softening. It would take 3 months for the ink steel to turn into a puddle of liquid. Based on this, one could see how tough the ink steel was. Although I'm strong now, it's almost impossible for me to destroy this ink steel. Duan Lingtian shook his head and studied the box that was completely made of ink steel in front of him. The box was tightly locked, revealing 3 identical keyholes that were arranged in a row. Is this the keyhole for the 3 keys? When Duan Lingtian saw the 3 keyholes on the box, he could not help but look at the 3 keys in his hand. His breathing quickened. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort to obtain these 3 keys. Especially on the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace, he was almost killed by Su Qing and Zhuo Yu. It could be said that he had risked his life to obtain the golden key. This box can only be opened with 3 keys. Moreover, it's an extravagant box that's made of ink steel. I wonder what kind of treasures are in it. Filled with excitement, Duan Lingtian stuffed the 3 keys in his hand into the 3 keyholes on the box one by one. Pa! A soft sound reverberated in the air. Under Duan Lingtian's attentive gaze, the box opened. At once, everything inside was exposed before his eyes. A fiery red soft sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing lay quietly in the box. Unlike ordinary swords that were 3 feet long, this fiery red soft sword was 5 feet long. Moreover, there was a faint red glow around it. With just one look, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. This sword, with just one look, Duan Lingtian realized that the fiery red soft sword in front of him gave him a familiar feeling. However, he was almost certain that this was his first time seeing this sword. Could it be that the Reincarnation Emperor Wu is familiar with it? But not me? With just a thought, Duan Lingtian began to search the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory. It didn't take long for him to get the answer he wanted. So, this fiery red soft sword is a spirit weapon that the Reincarnation Emperor Wu personally refined back then. Just like the sword in my hand, it's also a quasi-royal grade spirit sword. After learning about the origin of the fiery red soft sword, Duan Lingtian had to admit that he was slightly disappointed. Young man, congratulations on gathering 3 keys and obtaining the refined weapon that I obtained by chance back then. This refined weapon is even more powerful than a grade 1 spirit weapon. It can increase one's strength by 2 times. At the same time, the polyphony formation in the box was activated, and a voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. It was a message from the Qingfeng Emperor Wu. His tone was solemn. Based on the Qingfeng Emperor Wu's tone, one could tell that he treasured this quasi-royal grade spirit sword a lot. I'm afraid Martial Emperor Qingfeng would never have imagined that the person who obtained the sword he left behind after so many years probably doesn't care about the sword at all. Duan Lingtian sighed as he looked at the fiery red soft sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing in the box. He already had a quasi-royal grade spirit sword a long time ago. Having another one would not help him at all. Chapter 1002. Ink steel was a necessary material to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons. It was extremely precious. Back then, in order to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons, Reincarnation Emperor Wu had racked his brains to obtain a limited amount of ink steel. The amount of ink steel was not even 1% of the ink steel that was used to forge the box. This sword. Duan Lingtian lifted his hand and took out the fiery red flexible sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing. He held it in his hand and swung it gently. Buzz! The 5-foot-long fiery red flexible sword vibrated and let out a clear sword chime that was pleasing to the ear. It was a quasi-royal grade spirit sword after all. Duan Lingtian quickly put it away. At the same time, Duan Lingtian did not forget to put away the box that was completely made of ink steel. To him, this was a real treasure that he would need to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons in the future. Currently, Duan Lingtian had the intention of preparing for a rainy day. 3 keys to open the door to the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace and open the box that contains the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Shaking his head, Duan Lingtian glanced at the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. In the end, he did not go up directly. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground. Cultivate. Heal. This was what Duan Lingtian wanted to do now. In his opinion, if he was not mistaken, the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace should be where the body of Qingfeng Emperor Wu was located. According to the tests that Qingfeng Emperor Wu had set up in the lower 4 levels of Qingfeng Palace, it was not difficult to guess that the test on the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace would be even more difficult. I'm afraid it won't be easy to find the body of Qingfeng Emperor Wu. I'm injured now. Moreover, I haven't fully digested the medicinal efficacy of the amethyst fruit. I should wait until I'm done cultivating and my injuries are healed before I challenge the 5th level. After Duan Lingtian made up his mind, he focused on cultivating and healing his injuries. Time passed quietly. After an unknown period of time, Duan Lingtian noticed that the redbud fruit's medicinal efficacy in the origin energy that flowed in his meridians had completely vanished. At this moment, his cultivation base had just reached the bottleneck of the 6th level void transformation stage. It's already not bad to be able to hold on for so long. Even so, Duan Lingtian was pleasantly surprised by the violet spike fruit's medicinal effect. Although the violet spike fruit's medicinal effect is gone, the rebirth pill's overbearing medicinal effect is still able to circulate the origin energy in my body at the same speed. Break through the bottleneck in one go and break through to the 6th level void transformation stage. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and continued to cultivate. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique. Roaming dragon transformation. Naturally, when Duan Lingtian raised his cultivation base, he did not forget to heal his injuries and comprehend his concept while holding the 2 concept fragments. Fragments of concept of wind were naturally indispensable. Currently, the improvement of his wind concept was equivalent to the improvement of his fire concept as well. Therefore, he would not let go of any opportunity to raise his wind concept. As for the other 3 concepts, he mainly comprehended the earth concept. The reason he made such a choice was very simple. The earth concept could borrow the earth energy through communicating with the earth. If the earth concept encountered a bottleneck, he would comprehend the thunder concept from the remaining 2 concepts because the thunder concept was at a higher level than the sword concept. He would comprehend concepts as he cultivated. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's injuries were recovering rapidly under the medicinal effect of the life recovery pill. He soon recovered to his prime as though he was never injured. Duan Lingtian's body that was sitting cross-legged suddenly trembled slightly. Subsequently, he opened his eyes and a bright light flashed through his eyes. At the same time, his face was filled with surprise. The 6th level void transformation stage. I've finally broken through. Yes, the medicinal effect of the rebirth pill has also returned to my Dantian. As Duan Lingtian was mumbling to himself in surprise, a milky white flame rose from his body and caused the heaven and earth energy above his head to stir. In the end, the stirring heaven and earth energy condensed and transformed into the heaven and earth phenomenon. Ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared and wriggled down lifelike. 400 silhouettes. 500 silhouettes. 600 silhouettes. The number of ancient horned dragon silhouettes continued to rise until it reached 800 silhouettes. The origin energy of the 6th level void transformation stage was equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. There's still the concept. When Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up, the earth concept appeared and merged with the origin energy, causing the origin energy to transform into waves of khaki energy that twined around his body. When the earth concept appeared, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the sky turned into 900 ancient horned dragons silhouettes. Unfortunately, due to the impact of the bumpy road on Qingfeng Palace's 4th level, I can't borrow the earth energy here. Otherwise, I'd be able to increase the strength of another 50 ancient horned dragons. Duan Lingtian lifted his head and glanced at the 900 ancient horned dragons silhouettes above his head before he sighed. Soon after, Duan Lingtian returned to his senses. At that instant, the khaki origin energy trembled and emitted waves of sharp aura. It was none other than the sword concept. When the 9th level intermediate sword concept appeared, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the sky changed again and turned into 1,000 ancient horned dragons silhouettes. Boom! 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 A series of muffled thunder reverberated in the air. Subsequently, purple lightning that twined around the khaki energy appeared. 1st level advanced thunder concept. It was equivalent to the strength of 200 ancient horned dragons. For a time, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the sky changed again and turned into 1,200 ancient horned dragons silhouettes. Subsequently, the purple robe on Duan Lingtian's body fluttered, and waves of deep green wind swept out. At once, another 400 ancient horned dragons silhouettes appeared in the sky. Whoosh! Accompanying the appearance of the green wind was a vast flame that filled the sky, causing another 400 ancient horned dragon silhouettes to appear in the sky. It was the 3rd level advanced wind concept and the 3rd level advanced fire concept that was born from it. At that moment, the heaven and earth phenomenon above Duan Lingtian's head had already formed 2,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. It was majestic and breathtaking. All of this did not end because of this. As the green wind merged with the flames soared again. The wind concept was infused with the fire concept. At once, another 200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. It was the fire concept's 50% increase in strength, under the method of infusing the wind concept with the fire concept. 2,200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes hovered above Duan Lingtian's head, causing Duan Lingtian to narrow his eyes slightly. If I use the quasi-royal grade spirit sword again? With just a thought, a sword appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. It was the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that he had been using earlier. As Duan Lingtian's energy merged with the quasi-royal grade spirit sword, the heaven and earth energy in the sky stirred, and 800 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared out of thin air. At that moment, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was at the 6th level void transformation stage. When his origin energy fully exploded, the strength it contained was equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword's amplification was equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. The 3,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes gathered above Duan Lingtian's head and fell into his eyes, constantly impacting his eyeballs. Nothing was more than a feast for the eyes. The sword in my hand contains the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. Duan Lingtian held the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand and stared at the various concepts that were fused with his origin energy. His face was filled with heartfelt excitement. If I borrow the earth energy as well, my strength is equivalent to the strength of 3,050 ancient horned dragons when I unleash my full strength. The moment he thought of this, Duan Lingtian's heart surged. Whoosh! Without anyone noticing, Duan Lingtian stood up and stood with his sword in hand. The purple robe on his body fluttered without the wind. His body emitted a strong confidence that came from the bottom of his heart. A 9th level void transformation martial artist who has comprehended the 9th level void transformation concept. Without a spirit weapon, his full strength is equivalent to the strength of 2,200 ancient horned dragons. If such a martial artist doesn't use a spirit weapon, I'm not afraid at all. However, if he uses a spirit weapon, I'm far from being a match for him. Even if he's only using a grade 2 spirit weapon. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand was undoubtedly of a very high grade. It could even double his strength. However, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the 6th level void transformation stage. The double boost on his origin energy was only equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. However, a 9th level void transformation martial artist would have the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons if he fully unleashed his origin energy. Even if he only used a grade 2 spirit weapon with a 78% boost, he would still be able to increase the strength of 930 ancient horned dragons. The boost was much stronger than Duan Lingtian. I can't believe that my strength can achieve such a breakthrough after coming to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace. Initially, my full strength was only equivalent to the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons. Now I can exert the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. My strength has almost doubled. Duan Lingtian's emotions surged. He could not calm down for a long time. After a while, he lifted his head and looked at the door that led to the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. I wonder which unlucky bastard did not retrieve the 3 profundity fragments from Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body in time after activating the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace. Soon Nangongyi seemed to know what was done was done. He was no longer angry. When he recalled the person that Qingfeng Emperor Wu mentioned, he gloated. If he wasn't unlucky, the 2 profundity fragments would have been his, not ours. It was rare for Nangong-chun to say such a long sentence. Compared to the excitement of the Nangong brothers, Duan Lingtian, who had ascended to the 5th floor from the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace, was very depressed. All of this originated from the message that Qingfeng Emperor Wu left behind. Young man, although you've arrived at the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace, you didn't come up after activating the 5th floor. For this reason, the inscription formation that I left behind has guided the 2 monarch stage profundity fragments from my body to the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace to find their new owner. Duan Lingtian almost threw up blood when he heard Qingfeng Emperor Wu's words. He didn't come up after activating the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace? It was because he was worried that the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace would be dangerous. That was why he planned to ascend to the 5th floor after his cultivation base had broken through and his injuries had healed. If I knew there was no test on the 5th floor, I wouldn't have taken so long to ascend. Duan Lingtian clenched his teeth as he looked at the skeleton covered in a green robe that was close to him. The 2 monarch stage profundity fragments in Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body were gone just like that because he had arrived a little late. As soon as he ascended to the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace, he noticed that Qingfeng Emperor Wu did not set up any test on the 5th floor. There was only one skeleton sitting cross-legged nearby. It was Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body. Although Qingfeng Emperor Wu had passed away many years ago, his skeleton was well preserved. He maintained a cross-legged cultivation posture, giving off an aura of vicissitudes. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian took out the only remaining profundity fragment in Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body. Unlike the monarch stage profundity fragment, this profundity fragment did not glow with energy. Duan Lingtian held the profundity fragment in his hand. There seemed to be wisps of deep green wind surrounding it, emitting waves of terrifying aura. Duan Lingtian felt a wave of pressure when he was touched by the waves of aura. He could not help but take 2 steps back in shock. This is the Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment? After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian studied the profundity fragment in his hand seriously. He began to search Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, and soon obtained his answer. The profundity fragment in his hand was the Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment. Chapter 1004. It's you. In an instant, cold gleams shot out from Duan Lingtian's eyes as though he was about to devour someone. That's right, it's me. After the fire-peaked disciple was terrified to the extreme, he seemed to have lost his cool. He clenched his teeth and stared at Duan Lingtian before he braced himself and said, I don't think I know you? Why do you want to harm me? Upon hearing the fire-peaked disciple's confession, Duan Lingtian's face turned grave. His eyes narrowed as a cold gleam flashed across them. I owe senior brother Hu Fei a life, the Fire Peak disciple said in a deep voice. Hu Fei? Duan Lingtian was stunned at first before he finally understood what was going on. As it turned out, this Fire Peak disciple was trying to avenge Hu Fei who he had killed. However, Hu Fei knew how to save people as well. He found it a little hard to believe. I can't believe that Hu Fei can get someone to owe him a life. Before Duan Lingtian could say anything, Huang Daniu could not help but mock him. Hu Fei was the direct disciple of the Peak Master of Fire Peak. At the same time, he was also the traitor of Wood Peak. In order to stand out, not only did Hu Fei betray Wood Peak who had nurtured him, he even betrayed his own master and savior. He had no reputation in the Five Elements sect at all. Now anyone would be surprised to hear that a person like Hu Fei would save people. However, both Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu did not know about this at all. The reason why Hu Fei saved this Fire Peak disciple's life was more for his own benefit. It was not purely for the sake of saving this Fire Peak disciple. Just like Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu's understanding of Hu Fei was a cold-blooded animal. It was impossible for him to be merciful and benevolent. Everything he had done was for himself. Selfishness was his synonym. If that's the case, you can return your life to him, Duan Lingtian said indifferently. Then he raised his hand at lightning speed and condensed a sword ray that shot out. It was so fast that even Huang Daniu could not catch a glimpse of it, let alone that Fire Peak disciple. Poochie! A soft sound was heard. An arrow of blood spurted out from the throat of the Fire Peak disciple. The blood splattered in the air like blooming red roses. It was dazzling and eye-catching. Following that, the Fire Peak disciple's body fell to the ground and turned into a pile of minced meat. Duan Lingtian's attack was decisive and merciless. So fast. Huang Daniu's pupils contracted. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, leaving him no time to react. He only saw Duan Lingtian raise his hand. In the next moment the Fire Peak disciple died. From the beginning until the end, he did not see how Duan Lingtian made his move. It seems like Duan Lingtian had a fortuitous encounter in there. Otherwise, it's impossible for his strength to increase so much. Thinking of this, Huang Daniu looked at Duan Lingtian with envy. To Duan Lingtian, killing the Fire Peak disciple was like doing something insignificant. All of a sudden he seemed to have recalled something. He looked at Huang Daniu curiously. Daniu, how did you find out? Naturally, Huang Daniu knew what Duan Lingtian was asking about. After chuckling, he continued to say, I met him in there. I happened to hear him spreading a rumor that you obtained the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment and wanted to harm you. Then I caught him, and after a round of coercion, he finally confessed to me how he had harmed you. Huang Daniu finished his sentence in one breath. Duan Lingtian came to a realization. He looked at Huang Daniu gratefully. No matter what, thank you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known who was the person who tried to harm me in the dark. Although the person who spread the rumor outside Emperor Wu's secret treasure and wanted to harm him did not succeed, it was still a matter of time before this. But that matter was undoubtedly a knot in his heart. He desperately wanted to know who was the person who tried to harm him in the dark. If he did not find out who that person was, he would feel restless every time he thought about it. There was a hidden person who was harming him in this world. To him it was undoubtedly a huge potential threat. It's nothing. It's nothing. Moreover, you gave me a grade 1 spirit weapon earlier and helped me in there. Consider it as me returning the favor. Huang Daniu waved his hand and said generously. Duan Lingtian nodded and did not continue to dwell on this topic. Instead, he asked curiously, Daniu, how long have you been out? About half an hour. Huang Daniu pondered for a moment before he replied. Whoosh! While Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu were chatting, another figure flew out of the palace. It's a disciple from a second-rate force. Duan Lingtian, should we kill him? Otherwise, he'll spread rumors after he exits from entrance number 1. Huang Daniu stared at the figure in the distance. His eyes gleamed fiercely. No need. Duan Lingtian shook his head under the horrified gaze of the Anika sect's disciple, who had a change of expression after hearing Huang Daniu's words. When he was brought out of the illusory formation, he had already vaguely realized it. It was very likely that Zuoyu had left Qingfeng Palace and the real martial emperor's secret treasure. It would not take long for him to leave from entrance number 1 and tell Izumo sect that he had killed Lei Zhong and Lei Jun. Moreover, Zuoyu would also tell North Nether sect that he had killed Su Qing. Moreover, Zuoyu would definitely tell Anika sect that he had the monarch stage profundity fragment in his possession, and that he might have obtained the 3 profundity fragments from Emperor Wu's body in Qingfeng Palace. At that time, not only would he have to face Izumo sect and North Nether sect who would seek revenge, but he would also have to face Anika sect who wanted to snatch the profundity fragments from him. The 3 second-rate forces in the northern desert had their eyes on him at the same time. Just the thought of it sent chills down Duan Lingtian's spine. To the current him, 3 second-rate forces were undoubtedly colossal existences. The Anika sect's disciple sighed in relief when he saw that Duan Lingtian had no intention of attacking him. He looked at Duan Lingtian gratefully before he flew away. Whoosh! 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 Subsequently, people began to leave one after another. Other than the few remaining disciples from the second-rate forces, the survivors from the third-rate forces also left Qingfeng Palace one by one. Soon after, a familiar figure appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Xianbei. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled up into a smile when he saw the young monk before him, and he took the initiative to greet him. Duan Lingtian. Xianbei felt a little awkward when he saw Duan Lingtian.